Serafina Vale stood before her laptop screen, her hands trembling as she clutched a photo printed from social media. In the picture, her husband, Damian Mercer, smiled broadly beside a stunning blonde woman. Not a mistress, not a lover, his wife. The caption beneath the photo pierced her heart. Damian Mercer and his wife, Celeste Mercer. 3 years. 3 years she had disappeared from his world. And now she understood. She hadn't been betrayed. She had been replaced. Follow this story to the end. Like and comment with the city you're viewing to let me know how far the story has progressed. Now, let's begin. The champagne glass hit the marble floor before Serafina even registered she'd dropped it. Crystal shattered. Golden liquid spread in a slow stain across white stone. She didn't move. Couldn't. Her eyes stayed locked on the laptop screen balanced against the silk pillows of her bed. The photographs loaded one after another. Charity gala at the Savoy. Political fundraiser in Westminster. Museum opening at the Tate Modern. Each image showed the same thing. Damien in his tailored Tom Ford suits, that practiced smile she'd once believed was reserved for her. And beside him, always beside him, a blonde woman whose beauty felt like a slap. Celeste Mercer. Not Celeste something else. Not his companion, not his date, his wife. Serafina's breath came shallow now. The penthouse bedroom, 30-foot ceilings, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Hyde Park, furniture that cost more than most people's homes, suddenly felt like it was closing in. Like the walls were made of water and she was drowning. She clicked through the images again. Her hands shook. There were dozens. Hundreds, maybe. Society pages. Instagram posts from London's elite. Twitter threads dissecting Damien's political connections. Every single one featured Celeste at his side, and not one mentioned Serafina at all. She scrolled back through the timestamps. 6 months ago. 8 months. A year. 18 months. How long had she been erased? Serafina pushed the laptop away and stood. Her reflection caught in the window. Dark hair falling past her shoulders. Expensive silk robe. Diamond studs Damien had given her for their second anniversary. She looked like a woman who had everything. She looked like a ghost. The penthouse was silent. It was always silent now. Damien had left 3 days ago for business in Geneva. Or maybe it was Brussels, she couldn't remember. She'd stopped asking where he went because he'd stopped pretending the lies mattered. She walked barefoot across the bedroom, past the walk-in closet filled with designer clothes she never wore anymore, past the ensuite bathroom with its heated floors and rainfall shower, into the study that overlooked the city. Damien's desk sat pristine and organized. Mahogany. Antique. He kept it locked when he was gone, but Serafina had found the key months ago. She'd never used it, never needed to. She'd trusted him. God, she'd been stupid. The lock clicked open. She pulled the drawers one by one. Files, contracts, investment portfolios. Nothing unusual, nothing incriminating. Then she found the folder, plain manila, unmarked, tucked in the back of the bottom drawer beneath a stack of quarterly reports. Serafina's hands trembled as she opened it. The first page was a legal document, dense paragraphs of text she had to read 3 times before the meaning sank in. Exit strategy, marital dissolution, Serafina Vale. Her own name stared back at her like an accusation. She flipped through the pages. Asset transfers dated back 2 years. Shell companies she'd never heard of. Bank accounts in the Cayman Islands. A luxury apartment in Knightsbridge purchased under an LLC. Address, floor plan, interior photos included. For Celeste. Serafina's vision blurred. She blinked hard, forced herself to keep reading. There were financial projections. Calculations designed to minimize what she'd receive in a divorce. Legal strategies to make it look like she'd left voluntarily. Testimony prep notes for character witnesses who would claim she'd been emotionally unstable for years. And there, on the final page, a handwritten note in Damien's precise script. Target completion, 18 months. Public narrative, amicable separation due to her withdrawal from social life. Settlement, minimal. Reputation, intact. The folder slipped from her fingers. Papers scattered across the floor like snow. He hadn't just cheated, he'd planned this. Meticulously, coldly. He'd spent years positioning her as the problem, the recluse, the unstable wife who'd retreated from public life. He'd created a narrative where her disappearance would seem inevitable, expected, and she'd helped him do it. Every missed event, every declined invitation, every night spent alone while he worked late, she'd accepted it all. Made excuses for him. Told herself marriage required sacrifice. She'd erased herself. Serafina's legs gave out. She sank onto the hardwood floor, surrounded by the evidence of her own destruction. The apartment was too quiet, too perfect, too much like a mausoleum. Her phone sat on the desk above her. She stared at it for a long time. There was only one person who would understand this kind of betrayal. Only one person who'd ever warned her that men like Damian Mercer wore their cruelty like expensive cologne, subtle until you got close enough to choke on it. But calling him meant opening a door she'd sealed shut 8 years ago. Calling him meant admitting she'd been wrong about everything. Calling him meant stepping back into a world she'd sworn she'd never return to. Serafina reached for the phone anyway. Her fingers remembered the number even though she'd deleted it years ago. Muscle memory. Or maybe just inevitability. The line rang once, twice. Then a voice she hadn't heard in nearly a decade answered. Serafina. Not a question, a statement, like he'd been expecting this call for 8 years. Her throat closed. She couldn't speak. Where are you? Lucian Drakov's voice was exactly as she remembered, low, controlled, weighted with the kind of authority that didn't need volume. Home, she managed. Your home or his? She looked around the penthouse. Damian's art on the walls. Damian's furniture. Damian's life. His, she whispered. Silence. Then, I'll send a car. Lucien, 1 hour. Be ready. The line went dead. Serafina sat on the floor holding the phone, heart hammering against her ribs. She'd just made a choice. She couldn't take it back. The clock on the wall ticked forward. 58 minutes left. She stood slowly, walked back to the bedroom, and opened her closet. Her hands moved through silk and cashmere and lace, clothes Damian had chosen, colors he preferred, styles that made her look expensive and unthreatening. She shoved them all aside. In the back, wrapped in protective cloth, hung a single black dress. She'd kept it hidden for 8 years, a relic from another life, from the woman she used to be before Damian Mercer convinced her that safety was the same thing as love. Serafina pulled it free. The fabric felt different against her skin, heavier, like armor. She showered quickly, washing away the champagne and the shock and the 3 years of slow suffocation. When she looked in the mirror, something had changed in her face. Something sharp had returned. She dried her hair, letting it fall in dark waves past her shoulders instead of the smooth, controlled style Damian preferred. She did her makeup differently, too. Darker eyes, bold mouth, nothing soft or apologetic about it. When she slipped into the black dress, it fit like it had been waiting. The car arrived exactly on time. Black Mercedes. Tinted windows. The driver didn't speak, just held the door open while she slid into the back seat. London blurred past outside. Hyde Park gave way to Mayfair, then to streets she hadn't seen in years. The car finally stopped in front of an unmarked black door set into a brick building that looked like every other building on the block, unless you knew what you were looking for. The driver opened her door. He's waiting. Serafina stepped onto the sidewalk. Her heels clicked against stone. The black door opened before she could knock. Inside was darkness, then a narrow hallway, then a staircase leading down. She descended. The underground club hadn't changed. Low ceilings, exposed brick, soft amber lighting that made everything look like a film noir. The bar ran along one wall, bottles backlit like jewels. Leather booths lined the other side. And at the far end, in the corner booth that no one else would dare occupy, sat Lucian Drakov. He looked up as she approached. 8 years had sharpened him. Gray touched his temples now. Lines bracketed his mouth. But his eyes, pale gray, almost silver, remained exactly the same. They tracked her movement across the room like she was the only thing in the world worth watching. Serafina stopped at the edge of his booth. Sit, Lucian said quietly. She slid into the seat across from him. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. The air between them felt pressurized, dangerous. You look, Lucian started. Don't. His mouth curved slightly, almost a smile. Still giving orders. I need help, Serafina said, cutting through the tension. Not sentiment. Lucien leaned back against the leather booth, studying her. Tell me. So she did. She told him about the photographs, about Celeste Mercer, about the folder hidden in Damien's desk, and the exit strategy that had been playing out for 2 years while she'd been too isolated to notice. She told him about the apartment in Knightsbridge and the shell companies and the character assassination carefully constructed to make her disappear without a trace. She told him everything except the part that hurt most, that she'd chosen Damien because he'd seemed safe, because loving Lucien had felt like standing too close to a bonfire, because she'd been terrified of being consumed. When she finished, Lucien was silent. Then he reached across the table and picked up her left hand. His thumb brushed across the massive diamond on her ring finger. He gave you this. Yes. It's ugly. Serafina almost laughed. It cost more than... I don't care what it cost. Lucien's grip tightened slightly. It's still ugly. He released her hand and signaled to someone Serafina couldn't see. A moment later, a man in a dark suit appeared at their booth. Everything on Damien Mercer, Lucien said. Financial, personal, professional. I want to know where his money moves, who he's fucking, and what laws he's broken. I want it by morning. The man nodded and disappeared. Serafina stared at Lucien. What are you doing? What you asked. Helping. I didn't ask you to destroy him. You didn't have to. Lucien's voice went cold. Men like Damien Mercer think cruelty is a business strategy. They think they can erase people without consequence. I'm going to teach him he's wrong. I don't want blood, Serafina said carefully. I want justice. Justice is boring. Lucien, what do you want then? He leaned forward, eyes locked on hers. Specifically, what would feel like enough? Serafina thought about it. About Damien's carefully constructed image. About the society he'd infiltrated by marrying her. The old money connection she'd brought him. The legitimacy her family name provided. About Celeste standing beside him at galas while Serafina rotted in isolation. There's an event next week, she said slowly. The Blackthorn Foundation Gala. Biggest social event of the season. Damien's planning to attend with Celeste. I saw it in his calendar. So I want to be there, with you. Lucien went very still. Explain. One appearance, one entrance. You and me walking in together like we did years ago, in front of everyone who matters, in front of every camera, in front of Damien and his replacement wife. Understanding flickered across Lucien's face. You want to collapse his narrative. I want to remind London that I exist, that I've always existed, that I'm not some unstable recluse who retreated from public life. I'm Serafina Vale, and I was here long before Damien Mercer ever mattered. And you think one night will accomplish that? I think one night with you will terrify him more than anything else I could do. Lucien was quiet for a long moment. Then he smiled, a real smile, sharp and predatory, and exactly the way she remembered. You're not the woman who left me 8 years ago, he said. No, Serafina agreed. I'm not. That woman wouldn't have come here tonight. She would have hired lawyers and filed paperwork and played by rules designed to protect men like Damien. That woman was an idiot. That woman was afraid. The words landed between them like a grenade. Serafina met his eyes. I'm still afraid? Of me? Of what happens after? When the adrenaline fades and I'm standing in the wreckage of my marriage with nowhere to go. You won't be standing alone, Lucien said quietly. That's what I'm afraid of. Lucien's expression shifted. For just a moment, the predator disappeared and something rawer surfaced. I won't ask you to be smaller than you are. Not again. Not ever. You didn't ask me before. I chose it myself. Because I made you feel like you had to choose. Serafina shook her head. I left because loving you felt like losing myself. Because your world was so loud and violent and overwhelming that I couldn't hear my own thoughts anymore. And now? Now I realize Damien's silence was worse. At least with you, I was drowning in something alive. With him, I've just been slowly disappearing. Lucien reached across the table again, but this time he didn't touch her hand. He waited. Serafina looked at his open palm for a long moment. Then she placed her hand in his. His fingers closed around hers. Warm. Solid. Exactly as she remembered. 1 week, he said. I'll have everything on Damien by tomorrow. We'll plan the approach. You'll walk into that gala looking like you own the entire city, and Damian Mercer will understand exactly what he's lost. And after, you decide what happens next. Not me, not Damian, you. Serafina nodded slowly. Okay, Lucienne echoed. They sat in silence for a while, hands still joined across the table. The club moved around them, low conversations, clinking glasses, ambient music, but the booth felt insulated from it all. Finally, Lucienne said, I need to ask you something. What? Why did you keep the dress? Serafina blinked. What dress? The one you're wearing. I remember it. You wore it to the Constantine meeting, the night before you left. Her breath caught. She'd forgotten he would remember. Lucienne remembered everything. I don't know, she admitted. Maybe I knew I'd need it again someday. Or maybe you never really left. Serafina pulled her hand back. Don't. Don't what? Don't rewrite history. I left because I needed to, because staying would have destroyed me. And yet here you are. Here I am, she agreed, but I'm not the same person. Neither am I. They stared at each other across the booth. The air felt electric again, dangerous. Serafina stood. I should go. Where? I don't know. A hotel. Somewhere Damian won't find me. Stay at my place. Lucienne, I have 6 bedrooms. You can have whichever one is farthest from mine. You'll be safe. Damian won't know where you are. And tomorrow we'll start planning. Serafina wanted to say no, wanted to maintain some distance, some control over the situation. But she was tired, bone tired, and the thought of checking into a hotel alone, of spending the night in another anonymous room, felt unbearable. Okay, she said quietly. Lucienne stood. He was taller than she remembered. Or maybe she'd just gotten used to Damian's average height. They walked out of the club together. The driver was waiting with the Mercedes. Lucienne held the door for her, then slid in beside her instead of taking the front seat. The car moved through London's nighttime streets. Serafina watched the city pass by, all neon and shadow, and lives being lived behind lit windows. I tracked you, Lucienne said suddenly. She turned to look at him. What? After you left, I had people watching, making sure you were safe, making sure Damian never hurt you. Anger flared in her chest. You had no right. I know. Then why? Because letting you go didn't mean I stopped loving you. It just meant I loved you enough to stay away. The anger died as quickly as it had sparked. Serafina didn't know what to say. I knew about Celeste 6 months ago, Lucienne continued. I knew Damian was planning something. I wanted to intervene. But you'd made your choice. I had no right to interfere. So why help me now? Because you called. Lucienne turned to face her. Because after 8 years of silence, you finally asked. The car stopped in front of a building Serafina recognized. A converted warehouse in Shoreditch, all glass and steel and modern architecture that shouldn't have worked, but somehow did. Lucien's penthouse occupied the entire top floor. They rode the elevator in silence. When the doors opened directly into his apartment, Serafina stepped out into a space that was nothing like she'd expected. No darkness, no leather furniture, no masculine aggression. Instead, open-plan living space flooded with moonlight from floor to ceiling windows. Minimalist furniture in soft grays and whites. Art on the walls. Real art. Not the sterile investment pieces Damian collected. Books everywhere. On shelves, stacked on tables, piled beside chairs. It looked like a home. Like someone actually lived here. You redecorated, Serafina said. I grew up. Lucienne walked past her into the kitchen. Are you hungry? She realized she was. She hadn't eaten since morning. Yes. He opened the refrigerator, an actual refrigerator stocked with actual food, not just champagne and takeout containers, and started pulling things out. Serafina watched him move through the kitchen with easy familiarity. Lucien Drakov, once one of London's most dangerous men, making her a meal at midnight. You cook now? She asked. I learned. He didn't look up from the cutting board. Turns out paying attention to what you put in your body has benefits. Like what? Like not dying before 50. Serafina almost smiled. She sat at the kitchen island and watched him work. It was strange and domestic and completely surreal. He made pasta carbonara, simple, perfect, exactly the kind of comfort food she needed. They ate in companionable silence. The city sprawled below them through the windows, infinite and indifferent. When they finished, Lucien showed her to a guest room at the far end of the apartment. True to his word, it was as far from the master bedroom as possible. "There are clothes in the closet," he said, "from before. I never threw them away." Serafina's throat tightened. "Why not?" "Same reason you kept the dress." He left before she could respond. Serafina closed the door and leaned against it. Her heart was racing. Everything was moving too fast and not fast enough at the same time. She opened the closet and found her old clothes still hanging there, jeans and sweaters and dresses she'd worn when she was someone else entirely. Someone fearless and reckless, and so in love with Lucien Drakov she could barely breathe. She changed into an old t-shirt and crawled into bed. Sleep should have been impossible, but exhaustion pulled her under almost immediately. She woke to sunlight streaming through unfamiliar windows and the smell of coffee. For a disorienting moment, she couldn't remember where she was. Then it came back in a rush. Damien, Celeste, Lucien, everything. She found clothes that still fit and made her way to the kitchen. Lucien was already there, dressed in dark slacks and a white shirt, reading something on his tablet. He looked up when she entered. "Coffee's fresh," he said. Serafina poured herself a cup and sat across from him. "What are you reading?" "Everything my people found on Damien." He turned the tablet to face her. "It's worse than you thought." The screen showed bank statements, transaction records, communications between Damien and various offshore accounts. "He's been moving money for 2 years," Lucien explained. "Not just his money, client money. He's running a scheme that makes Bernie Madoff look like an amateur." Serafina's hands shook around her coffee cup. "He's stealing?" "Creatively, using shell companies and fake investments to shuffle funds. It's sophisticated, but it's also illegal as hell." "How much?" "Conservatively, 40 million pounds. The number was so large it lost meaning. Serafina set down her cup before she dropped it. "There's more," Lucien said. "Celeste isn't his first replacement wife. She's his third. He has a pattern. Marries women with social connections, uses them to build his network, then systematically erases them while moving on to the next one." Nausea rolled through her. "The others? Where are they?" "One's in Scotland, living quietly. Signed an NDA. The others in New York, same deal. He paid them to disappear. He threatened them into disappearing, then paid them to stay quiet." Serafina stood and walked to the windows. London stretched out below, vast and uncaring. "I was going to be number 3, she said quietly. "You were never going to be anything he planned," Lucien said, "because you're not like the others. You came from this world. You understand how it works, and now you know the truth." She turned to face him. "What do we do?" "We burn him down." Lucien's voice was calm, matter-of-fact. "Not just publicly, completely. I have contacts at the Financial Conduct Authority. They'll want these records. I also have journalists who will run the story. But first the gala." "First the gala," Lucien agreed. "We destroy his image. Then we destroy everything else." Serafina walked back to the table and looked at the evidence spread across Lucien's tablet. Years of careful manipulation, years of cruelty dressed up as business. "I want him to see me," she said. "I want him to see exactly what he tried to erase. And I want him to know it's too late, that I'm already gone and he can't control the narrative anymore." "Then that's what we'll do." Lucien stood and made a phone call. He spoke in rapid sentences to someone on the other end, then hung up and looked at Serafina. "There's a designer I know. She'll be here in an hour. You need a dress for the gala, something that will make every camera in London turn when you walk in." "I have the black dress." "The black dress was perfect for last night. For the gala, you need something else. Something that announces you're not hiding anymore." Serafina nodded slowly. "Okay." The designer arrived exactly when Lucien said she would. A sharp-featured woman named Valentina, who took one look at Serafina and smiled like a surgeon being handed a scalpel. "So," Valentina said, circling her, "we're making a statement." "Yes." "Intimidating or seductive?" "Both." Valentina's smile widened. "Perfect." She produced fabric samples, sketches, photographs of dresses that had never been worn by anyone else. They spent 2 hours discussing cut and color and the exact message Serafina wanted to send. Finally, Valentina said, "Midnight blue, almost black but not quite, silk, fitted through the body, dramatic at the shoulders. When you walk into that room, every person there should feel like they're watching royalty arrive." "Not royalty," Serafina corrected. "A threat." Even better. Valentina took measurements and left promising the dress would be ready in 5 days. When she was gone, Serafina collapsed onto Lucian's couch. "I can't believe this is happening." "Which part?" Lucian sat beside her, not touching, but close. "All of it. Yesterday I was Damien's invisible wife. Today I'm planning a public execution at London's most exclusive gala." "You're not executing him. You're just showing him you exist." "It feels like the same thing." They sat in silence for a while. The apartment was quiet except for the ambient noise of the city far below. "Are you scared?" Lucien asked. "Terrified." "Good. Fear keeps you sharp." "Is that what you tell yourself?" "I tell myself that you're stronger than you think, that you survived 8 years with a man who was slowly erasing you. That survival takes a specific kind of strength most people never have to find." Serafina looked at him. "And what about you? What did you survive?" "Losing you," Lucien said simply. The words hung in the air between them. Serafina wanted to say something, wanted to acknowledge the weight of what he'd just admitted, but her phone buzzed before she could. She pulled it from her pocket. Unknown number. She answered anyway. "Hello?" "Serafina." Damien's voice. Calm, controlled. "We need to talk." Her blood went cold. "How did you get this number?" "I'm your husband. I have all your numbers." "What do you want?" "I'm at the penthouse." "You're not." "I'd like to know where you are." Serafina met Lucian's eyes. He'd gone very still, listening. "I'm staying with a friend," she said carefully. "What friend?" "You don't have friends anymore." The casual cruelty of it, the absolute certainty that she was isolated and powerless, made something snap inside her. "I have plenty of friends," Serafina said, her voice steady. "You just made sure I forgot that." Silence on the other end. Then, "Come home. We'll talk about whatever's bothering you." "I'm not coming home." "Serafina, I found the folder, Damien. The exit strategy. The apartment you bought for Celeste. All of it." More silence. Longer this time. When Damien spoke again, his voice had changed, harder. "Then you understand why we need to talk, face to face, like adults." "We're done talking." "You don't get to make that decision." "Actually, I do. If you don't come home, there will be consequences." "For who? You?" "For both of us. I've built a certain reputation. You're part of that. If you suddenly disappear, people will ask questions." "Let them ask." "Serafina." His voice took on a warning tone she'd heard before, the tone that meant he was done being reasonable. She hung up. Her hands were shaking. Lucien took the phone gently from her grip and set it on the table. "He's going to escalate," Lucien said. "I know. He'll try to control the narrative before you can." "I know. We might need to move up the timeline." Serafina shook her head. "No. We stick to the plan. The gala is in 5 days. We hit him when it hurts most, in front of everyone who matters." Lucien studied her face. "You're sure?" "I'm sure." What she didn't say, she was also terrified. That calling Damien's bluff meant accepting there was no going back. That once she walked into that gala with Lucian, her marriage was truly over. But maybe it had been over for years. Maybe she'd just been too afraid to admit it. The next 5 days passed in a blur of planning and preparation. Lucien's people continued digging into Damien's finances. Valentina delivered the dress, and it was perfect, exactly as promised. Serafina practiced walking in heels she hadn't worn in years, practiced the posture and presence she'd abandoned when she married Damien. She practiced being someone who refused to disappear. On the night before the gala, she stood in Lucian's guest room and stared at her reflection. The woman looking back was someone she barely recognized, someone who looked dangerous, someone who looked alive. There was a knock at her door. "Come in," she called. Lucien entered carrying 2 glasses of wine. He handed her one. To tomorrow, he said. To tomorrow, she echoed. They drank in silence. Then Lucien said, Last chance to back out. I'm not backing out. Once we do this, Damien will know you're with me. He'll use that against you. Make it seem like you were unfaithful, like you left him for another man. Let him try. I have proof he'd been planning to leave me for 2 years. I have evidence of fraud. I have photos of him with Celeste going back over a year. Whatever story he tells, I have the truth. The truth doesn't always win. Then I'll make sure everyone's watching when I tell it. Lucien smiled slightly. You really have changed. So have you. How? Serafina thought about it. You used to make me feel like I had to choose between loving you and being myself. Now you're helping me remember who I am. That's not me changing. That's you finally believing you don't have to be smaller to be loved. The words landed with unexpected weight. Serafina set down her wine glass. I should sleep. Tomorrow's going to be brutal, Lucien finished. I was going to say unforgettable. Same thing. He turned to leave, then stopped at the door. Serafina? Yes? Whatever happens tomorrow, whatever Damien says or does or tries, remember that you're not doing this for revenge. You're doing this because you deserve to exist, in your own right, without apology. Her throat tightened. Thank you. Lucien nodded once and left. Serafina stood alone in the guest room, heart pounding, mind racing. Tomorrow night, she would walk into the Blackthorn Foundation gala on Lucien Dreykov's arm. Tomorrow night, Damien Mercer would see exactly what he'd tried to erase. Tomorrow night, London would remember her name. She just had to survive until then. The morning of the gala arrived with rain hammering against the windows of Lucien's penthouse. Serafina woke to gray light and the sound of water against glass, her heart already racing before she'd fully opened her eyes. She lay still for a moment, staring at the ceiling, willing her breathing to slow. Today. It was happening today. Her phone buzzed on the nightstand. She reached for it, half expecting another call from Damien. Instead, it was a message from an unknown number. You look beautiful when you sleep, even through hotel windows. Ice water flooded her veins. She sat up so fast her vision swam. Another message arrived immediately. The Shoreditch apartment, top floor, very modern, not your usual style, Serafina. Whose taste is it? She was out of bed and moving before conscious thought kicked in. Her feet hit the cold floor and she ran, down the hallway toward Lucien's bedroom. She didn't knock, just shoved the door open. Lucien was already awake, standing by his own window with a phone pressed to his ear. He turned when she burst in, his expression shifting from surprise to sharp focus in half a second. He knows, Serafina said, holding up her phone. Damien knows I'm here. Lucien ended his call without a word and crossed to her in 3 strides. He took her phone, read the messages, and his jaw went tight. How long has he been watching? She asked. Her voice came out higher than she intended. Long enough to know where you are. Not long enough to do anything about it. Lucien handed back her phone and pulled his own. He dialed, waited 2 seconds. I need a security sweep on the building. Now. Yes, now. And get someone on the street. Black Mercedes, tinted windows, probably parked within visual range of the entrance. He hung up and looked at Serafina. Really looked at her, taking in her bare feet, the oversized t-shirt she'd slept in, the way her hands were shaking. Come here, he said quietly. I'm fine. You're trembling. I said I'm fine. Lucien didn't move, just watched her with those pale gray eyes that missed nothing. He's trying to scare you. It's a power play. He wants you off balance before tonight. It's working. Then we don't give him what he wants. Serafina wrapped her arms around herself. The apartment suddenly felt too exposed, too many windows, too much glass. What if he does something? What if he shows up here, or he won't? You don't know that. Yes, I do. Because Damien Mercer is a coward who hides behind lawyers and offshore accounts. He sends threatening texts from burner phones. He doesn't show up in person and risk getting his hands dirty. You don't know him like I do. I know him exactly as well as I need to. Lucien's voice stayed calm, but something dangerous edged into it. He's a middle management sociopath who married you for connections and thinks intimidation is the same thing as strength. I've dealt with 100 men like him. They all fold when someone actually pushes back. Serafina wanted to believe him, wanted to feel as certain as he sounded. But she'd lived with Damien for 3 years. She'd watched him dismantle people's lives with surgical precision. She'd seen how patient he could be, how methodical. Her phone buzzed again. Another message. Lucien Drakov. Interesting choice. Does he know you left him because you were afraid of what you'd become if you stayed? Or did you tell him it was about love? She felt the blood drain from her face. Lucien saw her reaction and took the phone again. This time when he read the message, something shifted in his expression, something cold and final. "Get dressed," he said. "We're leaving." "What? Why?" "Because staying here means letting him control the situation. We're going somewhere he doesn't know about, somewhere he can't watch." "Lucien, now, Serafina." The command in his voice left no room for argument. She went. 20 minutes later, they were in the back of a different car. Not the Mercedes, but a nondescript sedan with a driver Serafina had never seen before. The rain had intensified, turning London into a blur of gray and chrome outside the windows. "Where are we going?" she asked. "Somewhere safe." "That's not an answer." Lucien glanced at her. "A property I own, off the books. No paperwork, no trail. Damien won't find it." They drove for 40 minutes, leaving central London behind and heading into the countryside. The city gave way to villages, then to nothing but green fields and stone walls and rain. Finally, the car turned down a private road and stopped in front of a manor house that looked like it had been standing for 300 years. Gray stone, ivy-covered walls, windows that reflected the stormy sky. "You own this?" Serafina asked. "Technically, a shell company owns it. Same difference." They got out of the car. Rain immediately soaked through Serafina's jacket. She ran for the front door while Lucien followed at a more measured pace, like getting wet didn't bother him at all. Inside was warmth and silence. Dark wood floors. Antique furniture that actually looked lived in rather than collected. A fire already burning in the main room's fireplace. "Someone prepared this," Serafina said. "I called ahead while you were getting dressed." "Who else knows about this place?" 3 people. None of them will tell Damien. Serafina walked to the fireplace and held her hands toward the flames. She was cold in a way that had nothing to do with the rain. "He's going to keep escalating. You know that, right? The closer we get to tonight, the more desperate he'll become." "Let him." "Easy for you to say. You're not the one he's been systematically erasing for 3 years. No, I'm just the one he's threatening now." Lucien appeared beside her with 2 towels. He handed her one. "Dry off before you catch something." She took the towel but didn't use it, just held it while water dripped from her hair onto the expensive rug beneath her feet. This was a mistake. What was? All of it. Coming to you. Planning this. Thinking I could actually fight back against someone like Damien. You're spiraling. I'm being realistic. You're letting him win before the fight even starts. Serafina threw the towel at him. He caught it without flinching. "Don't patronize me," she said. Don't stand there and act like you understand what this feels like. You've never been erased. You've never spent years disappearing piece by piece until you can't remember who you were before." "You're right," Lucien said quietly. "I haven't. But I watched you disappear. I watched you marry a man who turned you into a ghost. And I didn't do anything because you'd made your choice. And I had to respect that. So this is what? Revenge? A chance to prove you were right all along? This is me giving you what you asked for. Help. Support. A way to take back what he stole. He didn't steal anything. I gave it to him. I gave him everything because I thought that's what love meant. Sacrifice. Compromise. Making yourself smaller so someone else can feel bigger. That's not love. Then what is it? Slow suicide. The words hit her like a slap. She stepped back from the fireplace, from Lucien, from everything. "I need air," she said. "It's raining." "I don't care." She walked out through the back door into a garden that looked like it belonged in a fairy tale. Stone pathways, overgrown roses, a fountain in the center that had probably been beautiful once but was now just worn stone and stagnant water. The rain soaked through her clothes within seconds. She didn't care. The cold felt clarifying. She heard footsteps behind her but didn't turn around. "Go away," she said. No. Lucienne, you don't get to run anymore. Not from this. Not from me. Serafina whirled to face him. Rain plastered his hair to his skull, made his white shirt transparent. He looked like something out of a gothic novel, dangerous and beautiful and completely unmoved by her anger. I'm not running, she said. I'm trying to think. You're trying to convince yourself this is hopeless so you have an excuse to give up. Maybe it is hopeless. Maybe Damien's already won and tonight is just theater. You don't believe that. How do you know what I believe? Because if you believed that, you wouldn't have called me. You wouldn't have spent 5 days preparing. You wouldn't be standing in the rain arguing with me instead of going back to that penthouse and accepting whatever scraps Damien decides to throw you. Serafina felt something crack open inside her chest, something she'd been holding closed for 3 years. I'm terrified, she whispered. I'm so fucking terrified that tonight won't change anything. That I'll walk into that gala and Damien will just, I don't know, smile and spin some story, and everyone will believe him because he's charming and connected, and I'm just the crazy wife who couldn't handle the pressure. Lucienne closed the distance between them. He was close enough now that she could see the water running down his face, could see the way his eyes had gone dark with something she couldn't name. Then we make sure they can't ignore you, he said. We make sure when you walk into that room you're so undeniable that Damien's charm doesn't matter. His connections don't matter. The only thing that matters is that you're there and you're real and you're not disappearing quietly. And if it doesn't work, then we burn down everything he's built anyway. But it will work, because you're not the woman Damien married anymore. You're the woman who survived him. Serafina wanted to believe it, wanted to feel as certain as Lucienne looked, but doubt had teeth and it was eating her alive. Come inside, Lucienne said. You're going to freeze. She followed him back into the manor house. Her clothes dripped water across the floor. She was shivering now, her teeth chattering. Lucienne disappeared and returned with dry clothes, a sweater and pants that were too big but warm. Change. I'll make tea. I don't want tea. Change anyway. She went into the bathroom and peeled off her wet clothes. The mirror showed a woman who looked half drowned and completely lost. Her makeup had run. Her hair hung in wet ropes. She looked nothing like the polished, controlled person she'd been when she was married to Damien. She looked raw. She dressed in the dry clothes and found Lucien in the kitchen. He'd made tea despite her protest. She took the cup because holding something warm helped. They sat at a wooden table that had probably hosted 100 years of meals. The silence stretched between them. Finally, Lucienne said, "Tell me about the worst day." What? The worst day of your marriage, the moment you knew you'd made a mistake. Serafina stared into her tea. Steam rose from the surface, distorting the liquid beneath. Why? Because you need to remember why you're doing this. She didn't want to talk about it. Didn't want to revisit the specific flavor of humiliation and loneliness that had defined her marriage. But maybe Lucienne was right. Maybe she needed to remember. It was our 2nd anniversary, she said quietly. Damien promised we'd go to this restaurant I loved. I spent all day getting ready. Wore a dress he'd bought me. Did my hair the way he liked. I was so fucking pathetic. Lucien didn't interrupt. He called at 7. Said he was running late. Called again at 8. Still running late. By 9, I was sitting at the table alone, drinking wine and trying not to cry. He finally came home at midnight. Didn't apologize. Just said business had run long and acted like I was being unreasonable for being upset. What did you do? Nothing. I smiled and said it was fine, because that's what I always did. I made myself small and understanding and patient. I convinced myself that's what good wives do. And now? Now I realize I was dying, slowly, invisibly. And Damien not only didn't care, he was counting on it. Lucien reached across the table and covered her hand with his. His skin was warm despite the rain, despite everything. Tonight, he said, you stopped dying. Serafina nodded. She didn't trust her voice. They sat like that for a long time. Rain continued to hammer the windows. The fire crackled in the other room. Outside, the world was gray and cold and merciless. But inside, Serafina felt something shift. Maybe it was resolve. Maybe it was just exhaustion giving way to numbness. Either way, she was done running. Around 3 in the afternoon, Valentina arrived with the dress. She came in a black van with 2 assistants and enough equipment to stage a photo shoot. "We're doing hair and makeup here," she announced, not asking. "I won't have you looking anything less than devastating." For the next 3 hours, Serafina sat in a chair while Valentina and her team worked. They turned her into someone else, someone who looked like they could burn down kingdoms and not lose sleep over it. The dress was perfect, midnight blue silk that caught the light like oil on water. It fit her like it had been grown on her body. The shoulders were dramatic without being costumey. The neckline plunged just enough to be dangerous. When Valentina finally let her see herself in a full-length mirror, Serafina barely recognized her own reflection. "Now you're ready," Valentina said with satisfaction. Lucien appeared in the doorway. He'd changed into a black tuxedo that made him look like he'd walked out of a film about elegant criminals. When he saw Serafina, he went very still. "Well?" she asked. He didn't answer immediately, just looked at her like she was something he'd lost and found again. "You'll stop traffic," he finally said. "That's the idea." Valentina packed up her equipment. "Don't forget, you're not performing for anyone tonight. You're simply existing, loudly. Let them scramble to keep up." Then she left, taking her assistants with her. Serafina and Lucien stood alone in the manor house's grand entryway. Outside, night had fallen. The rain had stopped, but the air still smelled like wet earth and growing things. "We should go," Lucien said. "The gala starts in an hour." "I need a minute." "Take it." Serafina walked through the house one last time. She didn't know why. Maybe she was stalling. Maybe she needed to ground herself in something real before stepping into the performance. She found herself in front of a window overlooking the dark gardens. Her reflection stared back. This woman in midnight blue, who looked like she belonged in another century, when women were allowed to be dangerous. She heard Lucien approach from behind. "Second thoughts?" he asked. "100th thoughts." "That's allowed." "Is it?" "You can walk away right now. We can drive back to London, and you can file for divorce quietly. Hire lawyers. Do this the respectable way." Serafina turned to face him. "Would you respect me if I did that?" "I'd respect whatever choice you made." "That's not what I asked." Lucien's expression shifted. "No, I wouldn't respect it, because it would mean Damien won, not legally, but psychologically. He'd have convinced you that disappearing was safer than fighting. Maybe it is safer. Since when do you care about safety?" The question landed like a punch. Because he was right. The woman she'd been before Damien, the one who'd loved Lucien and lived in his dangerous world, hadn't cared about safety at all. "I forgot," she admitted. "I forgot what it felt like to risk something. Then remember." He held out his hand. Serafina looked at it for a long moment. This was the choice. The real one. Not whether to attend the gala. That decision had been made days ago. This was whether to step back into the version of herself she'd abandoned. The one who didn't apologize. Who didn't make herself small. Who burned bright enough to hurt. She took his hand. They walked to the car together. The drive back to London felt like descending into hell, every mile bringing them closer to the moment of detonation. Serafina's phone buzzed constantly. Messages from numbers she didn't recognize. Threats. Warnings. Damien's fingerprints all over them, even if his name never appeared. She turned the phone off and threw it in her purse. "He's panicking," Lucien observed. "Good." The hotel hosting the gala loomed ahead. The Blackthorn Foundation event was held at the Langham, all marble and crystal and old money. Paparazzi lined the entrance. Camera flashes created a wall of light. Their car joined the queue of vehicles dropping off London's elite. Serafina's breathing went shallow. This was it. No more planning, no more rehearsal. "Look at me, Lucien said. She turned. His eyes were calm, steady, like standing in front of a firing squad was just another Tuesday. "You are Serafina Vale," he said. "Not Mercer, not Drakov. Vale. You were someone before either of us. You'll be someone after. Whatever happens in the next 2 hours doesn't define you. It just reveals what was already true." "Which is?" "That you're the most dangerous woman in any room you walk into." The car stopped. Outside, cameras exploded. The door opened. Lucien got out first. Flashes intensified. Serafina heard voices. Paparazzi shouting questions, asking who he was with, demanding he turn this way and that. Then his hand appeared. extended, waiting. Serafina took a breath that felt like swallowing glass and stepped out of the car. The noise was immediate and overwhelming. Camera flashes blinded her. Voices shouted her name, her actual name, not Mrs. Mercer, but Serafina and Miss Vale, like they remembered who she'd been before. Lucien's hand found hers. Steady, grounding. They walked toward the entrance together. The red carpet felt a mile long. Every step brought new camera angles, new shouted questions. Serafina kept her head up, her expression neutral. She didn't smile, didn't wave, just existed in the space like she owned it. Inside the hotel lobby, the crowd thickened. London society in evening wear, champagne and crystal flutes, conversations that stopped mid-sentence when Serafina walked past. She felt the recognition ripple through them, the shock, the sudden recalculation as they realized who she was and who she was with. Lucien guided her through the crowd with the ease of someone who'd been doing this his whole life. People parted for him automatically. They reached the ballroom entrance, and there, across the vast space filled with tables and flowers and London's most powerful people, stood Damien Mercer. He wore a navy tuxedo. His hair was perfectly styled. His smile was perfectly calibrated for the cameras. And beside him stood Celeste in a white gown that screamed bride-to-be. Serafina felt everything inside her crystallize into something cold and sharp. Damien saw her at the same moment. His smile froze. Actually froze on his face like someone had pressed pause. Celeste followed his gaze. Her confident expression crumbled. The ballroom was starting to notice. Heads turned. Whispers spread like wildfire. Serafina felt Lucien's hand tighten on hers, a warning or an anchor. She couldn't tell. "Ready?" he asked quietly. "No." "Perfect." They walked into the ballroom together. The crowd parted. Conversations died. Every eye in the room tracked their movement. Serafina kept her focus straight ahead. Not on Damien, not on Celeste, not on any of the faces she recognized from the society pages. She just walked, existed, refused to disappear. They were halfway across the ballroom when Damien moved. He broke away from Celeste and started toward them, his face a mask of controlled fury. "Keep walking," Lucien murmured. "He's coming." "I know, keep walking." But Damien was faster. He cut through the crowd and positioned himself directly in their path. "Serafina." His voice was loud enough to carry, loud enough for everyone nearby to hear. "What are you doing here?" She stopped, looked at him. Really looked at him for the first time in months. He looked smaller than she remembered, or maybe she'd just gotten taller. "Attending a gala," she said calmly. "Same as you." "With him?" Damien's eyes flicked to Lucien with naked contempt. "Yes." "Do you have any idea how this looks?" "I imagine it looks like I exist," which seems to surprise you. Damien's jaw tightened. Around them, people were openly staring now. Phone cameras appeared. This was becoming a spectacle. "We need to talk," Damien said through clenched teeth. "Privately." "I don't think so." "Serafina, you've had 3 years to talk to me, Damien. You chose to spend that time planning my erasure instead. I think we're done talking." His face went red. "You're making a scene." "Good. People are watching." "Even better." Celeste appeared at Damien's elbow. Up close, she was younger than Serafina expected. Mid-20s, maybe. Beautiful in that polished, interchangeable way that London society preferred. "Damien?" Celeste's voice was uncertain. "What's going on?" "Nothing," Damien said quickly. "Just, he hasn't told you about me?" Serafina asked Celeste directly. The younger woman blinked. What?" "I'm Serafina, Damien's wife." The color drained from Celeste's face. "His what?" "You didn't know," Serafina said. It wasn't a question. "He said he was divorced," Celeste whispered. "He lied." Damien grabbed Serafina's arm. "That's enough." Lucien moved so fast Serafina barely saw it. 1 second Damien's hand was on her arm. The next, Lucien had Damien's wrist in a grip that made the other man wince. "Don't touch her," Lucien said quietly, dangerously. "Who the fuck are you?" Damien tried to pull free and failed. "Someone who actually values her. A concept you apparently never grasped." Lucien released him. Damien stumbled back, cradling his wrist. The crowd around them had grown. Serafina could see phone cameras everywhere now. This was being recorded, broadcast, immortalized. Good. Serafina, Damien tried again, his voice taking on a pleading note. Please. We can work this out. Just not here. Not like this. You mean not publicly, Serafina said. Not where people can see what you actually are. What I am. What about what you are? Running to your ex-husband the second things get difficult? Ex-husband? The voice came from behind them. Serafina turned. A woman she recognized from the society pages, Lady Something or Other, one of London's biggest gossips, stood with her phone out, clearly recording. Did you say ex-husband? The woman repeated, looking between Serafina and Lucien with predatory interest. Yes, Serafina said clearly. Lucien Drakov. We were married 8 years ago. The ballroom erupted. Conversations exploded. Phones appeared everywhere. Serafina could see the realization spreading through the crowd like a virus. Damien looked like he'd been shot. You were married to Lucien Drakov? Someone said loudly. Why didn't anyone know this? Someone else demanded. Because I chose privacy, Serafina said. Her voice carried across the ballroom. Because when Lucien and I divorced, we did it quietly, amicably, without trying to erase each other. She turned back to Damien. Unlike some people, I don't believe in destroying the people I once loved just because the relationship ended. Damien's face was purple now. You have no idea what you're doing. I know exactly what I'm doing. I'm showing London that I still exist, that I never stopped existing. You just convinced everyone, including me, that I had. This is... Damien looked around wildly, seeing all the cameras, all the witnesses. This is slander. Is it? Should we talk about the apartment you bought for Celeste, the shell companies, the exit strategy folder hidden in your desk? Damien went white. Should we talk about how you've been systematically moving money out of our accounts for 2 years? About the settlement you had drawn up that would leave me with almost nothing? About the character witnesses you prepared to call me unstable? You went through my private files. They stopped being private when you used them to plan my destruction. Celeste made a small noise. When Serafina looked at her, the younger woman had tears running down her face. You have other accounts? Celeste asked Damien. You told me. Not now, Damien snapped. How many? Celeste's voice broke. How much money? Celeste, please. But Celeste was backing away, looking at Damien like she was seeing him for the first time. You lied about everything, she whispered. About being divorced. About your finances. About... Her voice broke completely. She turned and fled through the crowd. Damien started after her, then stopped. Looked back at Serafina with pure hatred. You've ruined me, he said. No, Serafina replied. I've just shown everyone who you actually are. You ruined yourself. This isn't over. Yes, it is. Damien looked like he wanted to say more. His hands were shaking. His carefully constructed image was collapsing in real time, and he could feel it. Then someone in the crowd said loudly, Isn't that the man being investigated for fraud? Another voice, I heard his investors are pulling out. Another, my husband said there's a Financial Conduct Authority inquiry. Damien's face went from purple to gray. He looked around at the crowd, these people who'd once courted his favor, who'd smiled at his parties and sought his advice, and saw nothing but vultures circling. He ran. Actually turned and ran from the ballroom like the coward Lucien had said he was. The crowd buzzed with shock and speculation. Serafina stood in the center of it all, feeling oddly numb. She'd done it. She'd walked in. She'd confronted him. She'd revealed everything in front of everyone who mattered, and instead of feeling triumphant, she just felt tired. Lucien's hand found hers again. We should go, he said quietly. Already? You've done what you came to do. Staying longer just feeds the circus. He was right. The cameras were everywhere now. Questions were being shouted. People were crowding in, wanting statements, wanting details, wanting to be part of the scandal. Lucien guided her through the crush toward the exit. People tried to stop them. Reporters, society figures, random strangers with phones. They ignored all of it. Outside, their car was waiting. They got in and the doors closed, muffling the chaos. The driver pulled away from the hotel. Serafina leaned back against the leather seat, and closed her eyes. That was, she started. Brutal, Lucien finished. I was going to say necessary. Same thing. They drove in silence for a while. London passed by outside, indifferent to the bomb that had just detonated at the Langham. Finally, Serafina said, What happens now? Now the lawyers get involved. The press tears Damien apart. The Financial Conduct Authority accelerates their investigation. And you decide what kind of life you want to build. Just like that? Just like that. Serafina opened her eyes and looked at him. And what about us? Lucien met her gaze. What about us? Don't play dumb. I'm not. I genuinely don't know what you're asking. I'm asking if this was just about revenge, about proving you were right, about getting me back. No? Then what was it about? Lucien was quiet for a long moment. The car turned onto a street Serafina didn't recognize. It was about watching someone I love destroy themselves slowly and finally having permission to help, he said. That's all. That's everything. The words hit her harder than she expected. I don't know if I can do this again, she admitted. Us. The intensity, the way loving you feels like being on fire. Then don't. Don't what? Don't do it again. We don't have to be what we were before. We can be something new, something that doesn't burn you alive. Can we? I don't know, but we can try. Serafina looked out the window. They were heading back toward the manor house, she realized, away from London, away from the fallout. I need time, she said. Take it. I need space to figure out who I am without being someone's wife. Take that too. Her voice cracked. I need to know that you're not going to disappear if I don't give you an answer right now. Lucien reached over and took her hand. I waited 8 years. I can wait longer. Why? Because you're worth waiting for. Serafina felt tears burn behind her eyes. She'd been holding them back all night, through the confrontation, through the cameras, through everything, but now they threatened to spill over. I'm so tired, she whispered. I know. I feel like I've been fighting for years and I'm only just realizing it. That's what happens when someone tries to erase you. The resistance is exhausting even when you don't know you're resisting. They reached the manor house. The driver opened the door. Lucien helped Serafina out. Inside, the fire was still burning. Someone had been here, prepared the house for their return. Serafina kicked off her heels and collapsed onto the couch. The midnight blue dress pooled around her like water. Lucien sat beside her, close but not touching. Thank you, Serafina said. For what? For helping me remember I deserve to exist. You always deserved it. You just forgot. They sat in silence while the fire crackled and the night pressed against the windows. Serafina's phone, turned back on at some point during the drive, started buzzing. Messages flooded in. News alerts, calls from numbers she didn't recognize. She turned it off again. Tomorrow, Lucien said, the real fallout starts. Damien will try to control the narrative. Lawyers will call. Reporters will camp outside anywhere they think you might be. I know. But tonight, you can just breathe. Serafina looked at him. Really looked. At the man who'd let her go 8 years ago because he'd loved her enough to want her to be free. Who'd tracked her safety from a distance without interfering. Who'd stepped back into her life the moment she'd asked and helped her burn down everything that was slowly killing her. I'm glad I called you, she said. So am I. Outside, thunder rolled across the countryside. A storm was coming. But inside the manor house, Serafina finally felt like she could breathe. She'd walked into that ballroom as Damien Mercer's invisible wife. She'd walked out as herself. And for the first time in 3 years, that felt like enough. Serafina woke to sunlight streaming through unfamiliar windows and the sound of her phone vibrating like a trapped insect against the nightstand. She'd fallen asleep on the couch sometime after midnight, still wearing the midnight blue dress, and someone, Lucien obviously, had covered her with a blanket. She reached for the phone. 43 missed calls, 67 text messages, 19 voicemails. She scrolled through the notifications with mounting dread. News outlets, former friends, people she hadn't spoken to in years, suddenly desperate for her side of the story. Then she saw the headlines. Billionaire Damien Mercer exposed. Secret wife, financial fraud. London socialite Serafina Vale returns with explosive allegations. Mercer Industries under investigation following gala confrontation. There were photographs, video clips. Someone had captured the entire confrontation at the Blackthorn Gala in high definition. Serafina watched herself on a gossip site's homepage, standing in that dress, saying the words that had detonated Damien's carefully constructed world. She should have felt victorious, should have felt vindicated. Instead, she felt hollow. Lucien appeared in the doorway holding 2 cups of coffee. He'd changed into jeans and a black sweater. He looked like a man who'd gotten a full night's sleep instead of someone who'd just helped orchestrate a public execution. "You're trending," he said, handing her a cup. "Is that good?" "Depends on your definition of good. The Financial Conduct Authority issued a statement an hour ago. They're formally investigating Damien's firm. 3 major investors have already pulled their money. His legal team released a statement calling your allegations desperate lies from an unstable woman, but nobody's buying it." Serafina sipped the coffee. It was perfect, exactly the way she liked it. Lucien had remembered after 8 years. "What about Celeste?" she asked. "Vanished. Left the country on a private flight early this morning. Destination unknown." Smart girl. Smarter than Damien deserved. Serafina set down the coffee and stood. The dress was wrinkled now, uncomfortable. She felt like she was wearing someone else's skin. "I need to shower, change, think." "Take your time. We're not going anywhere." She found her way to a bathroom that looked like it belonged in a luxury hotel. Someone had laid out fresh clothes, her clothes, the ones from Lucien's penthouse. Someone had packed them and brought them here. The efficiency was both comforting and unsettling. She showered until the water ran cold, scrubbing away the makeup and the performance and the lingering smell of the ballroom. When she finally emerged, wrapped in a towel, she caught her reflection in the mirror. The woman staring back looked different than she had yesterday. Older, maybe, or just more aware of the weight she'd been carrying. She dressed in jeans and a sweater and went looking for Lucien. She found him in what looked like a study, surrounded by papers and laptops. He glanced up when she entered. "Damien's lawyers are pushing back hard," he said without preamble. "They're claiming you fabricated the exit strategy documents, that the folder was a draft of a novel you were working on, not actual plans." "A novel?" Their words, not mine. That's insane. That's desperation. They're throwing everything at the wall to see what sticks. Serafina sat down across from him. "Do they have any proof?" "No, but they don't need proof. They just need to create enough doubt that people start questioning your credibility." "So what do? We release the documents ourselves, along with bank statements showing the money transfers, property records for the Knightsbridge apartment, everything that proves you're telling the truth." "And if that's not enough?" Lucien looked at her steadily. "Then we keep fighting until it is." A knock at the door interrupted them. Lucien's expression shifted, surprise, then calculation. "Expecting someone?" Serafina asked. "No." He stood and moved toward the front of the house. Serafina followed, her heart suddenly hammering. Through the window beside the door, she could see a black sedan, government plates. 2 men in suits standing on the doorstep looking patient and implacable. Lucien opened the door. "Mr. Drakov," the taller man said. "I'm Inspector Graves from the Metropolitan Police. This is Inspector Chen. We need to speak with Miss Vale." Ice water flooded Serafina's veins. "About what?" "About allegations made against you by Damien Mercer." "May we come in?" Lucien didn't move. "What allegations?" "If we could speak inside, bus..." "What?" "Allegations." Inspector Graves sighed. "Mr. Mercer has filed a formal complaint claiming that Miss Vale unlawfully accessed his private documents, stole confidential financial information, and is attempting to blackmail him with fabricated evidence." The world tilted sideways. "That's bullshit," Serafina heard herself say. "I didn't steal anything. Those documents were in our shared home. I had every right to access them." "Be that as it may, we need to bring you in for questioning. Are you arresting her?" Lucien's voice had gone cold. Dangerous. "Not at this time. We're simply asking her to cooperate with our inquiry." "Then she declines." "Mr. Drakov, she declines. If you want to question her, you can go through her lawyer. Until then, you're trespassing on private property." Inspector Graves looked at Serafina. Miss Vale, I strongly advise you to cooperate. Refusing to answer questions will only make things more difficult. Get a warrant, Lucian said flatly. Then come back. The inspectors exchanged glances. Then Inspector Graves pulled a business card from his pocket and handed it to Serafina. Have your lawyer contact us within 24 hours, he said. Otherwise, we'll be forced to escalate. They left. Serafina stood frozen in the doorway, watching the sedan disappear down the private road. Her hands were shaking, actually shaking. He's trying to criminalize you, Lucien said. Make you the villain instead of him. It's working. No, it's not. This is theater. Damien's lawyers told him to go on offense, file complaints, create noise, make it look like you're the aggressor. But I took those documents from your own house, from your own marriage. You didn't break into a safe. You didn't hack his computer. You opened an unlocked drawer in a home you legally share. The police don't seem to agree. The police have to follow up on complaints. It doesn't mean anything. But it meant something to Serafina. It meant Damien wasn't just going to let her destroy him quietly. He was going to fight back with every weapon at his disposal, and he had more weapons than she did. Her phone rang. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer, but something made her pick up. Miss Vale? A woman's voice. Professional. Cold. This is Jennifer Hartwell from Hartwell and Associates. We represent Damien Mercer. I'm calling to inform you that unless you issue a public retraction of all allegations made against our client within 48 hours, we will be filing a civil suit for defamation seeking damages in excess of 10 million pounds. Serafina's mouth went dry. He's suing me? Not yet. But we will if you don't retract. We're also prepared to pursue criminal charges for theft of proprietary information, violation of privacy laws, and conspiracy to commit fraud. Conspiracy? With who? With Lucien Drukov, who has a documented history of illegal business practices and has clearly manipulated you into this course of action for his own revenge. Serafina looked at Lucien. He was watching her with an expression she couldn't read. I'm not retracting anything, Serafina said. Everything I said was true. Then you'll be hearing from us very soon. And Miss Vale, I'd advise you to retain excellent legal representation. You're going to need it. The line went dead. Serafina lowered the phone. They're going to sue me for 10 million pounds, and they're claiming you manipulated me. Of course they are. She couldn't finish the sentence, couldn't find words for the trap closing around her. This is exactly what I expected, Lucien said calmly. Damien's playing the victim, turning the narrative, making you look like the unstable ex-wife being controlled by her dangerous former husband. Stop being so fucking calm about this. Would you prefer I panic? I'd prefer you acknowledge that we might have just made everything worse. Lucien moved closer. Do you regret last night? I don't know. Do you regret standing in that ballroom and telling the truth? The truth doesn't seem to matter when he's got lawyers threatening to destroy me. The truth always matters. It just takes time to win. And what do I do in the meantime? Wait to be arrested? Wait to be sued? Watch Damien paint me as some kind of mentally unstable blackmailer while he gets to play the wronged husband? You fight back. With what? I don't have 10 million pounds. I don't have a legal team. You have me. The words stopped her cold. Lucien, you have me, he repeated. My lawyers, my resources, my connections. Everything I have is yours. Why? Because that's what this is. That's what it's always been. Serafina felt something crack open in her chest, something painful and raw. I can't let you pay for my war against Damien. It's not your war, it's ours. The moment he tried to erase you, it became mine too. That's not... I watched you disappear for 3 years, Lucien said, his voice low and fierce. I watched you become a ghost in your own life. I watched him systematically destroy the woman I loved, and I did nothing because you'd chosen him, and I had to respect that. But you're not choosing him anymore. You're choosing yourself. And I will burn down every structure, every reputation, every institution that tries to punish you for that. Serafina stared at him. You can't mean that. Try me. Before she could respond, Lucien's phone rang. He answered it, listened for 30 seconds, and his expression went dark. When? He said. How many? A pause. I'm on my way. He hung up and looked at Serafina with something like fury in his eyes. What? She asked. Damien leaked the documents. What documents? From our divorce, 8 years ago, the settlement agreement, the NDAs, everything. Serafina's vision swam. Why would he? Because the settlement agreement includes a clause where you agreed not to publicly discuss our marriage or my business dealings. He's using it to argue that you have a history of being paid to stay silent, that you're doing this for money. But that's not. The NDA was standard. Your lawyers insisted, I know, but context doesn't matter when the headline reads, Serafina Vale previously took money to stay silent about criminal ex-husband. Serafina sat down before her legs gave out. He's destroying me. He's trying. No, he is. Look at this. Criminal complaints, civil suits, leaked documents painting me as some kind of professional victim who gets paid to accuse powerful men. By tomorrow, every news outlet in London will be running stories about how I'm a gold digger, a liar, a woman who marries rich men and then blackmails them. Not if we release our evidence first. What evidence? The documents Damien's lawyers claim I fabricated? The bank statements he'll say I doctored? He's a billionaire with unlimited resources. I'm a woman everyone forgot existed until last night. Lucien grabbed her shoulders. Not hard, but firm enough to make her look at him. Listen to me, he said. Damien is escalating because he's losing. People don't file frivolous lawsuits and leak old settlements when they're winning. They do it when they're desperate, or when they're rich enough to bury their problems. He can't bury you, not anymore. You stood in front of cameras and hundreds of witnesses and told the truth. That doesn't disappear just because he hires lawyers. Doesn't it? Look at what happened to his other wives. They disappeared. They signed NDAs and took money and vanished. What makes me different? You're different because you're not running. You're not hiding. You're... What? I'm what, Lucien? Brave, strong. I'm terrified. I'm so fucking terrified that I can barely breathe. Yesterday, I thought exposing Damien would be enough. But he's got contingency plans. He's 3 steps ahead. He knew I'd come for him, and he prepared for it. Then we adapt. To what? Criminal charges? A £10 million lawsuit? My entire history being weaponized against me? Lucien's phone rang again. He ignored it. It kept ringing. Finally, he answered. What? Serafina watched his face change as he listened, watched the color drain from his skin. When? He asked. Are you certain? Another pause. Don't do anything. I'll handle it. He hung up and looked at Serafina with an expression she couldn't decipher. What now? She asked. Damien filed for a restraining order, claims you're stalking him, harassing him, that you showed up at the gala specifically to intimidate and threaten him in front of witnesses. That's insane. The court granted it. Temporary order. You're not allowed within 500 feet of him or any property he owns, including the penthouse. But my things are now inaccessible without police escort. Serafina felt the walls closing in. He's locking me out of my own home. Legally, it's his home. Your name isn't on the deed, but I lived there for 3 years. Without a formal tenancy agreement, without your name on any documentation. He made sure of that. Of course he did. Of course Damien had been that thorough. Serafina stood and walked to the window. Outside, the countryside looked peaceful, pastoral, completely disconnected from the nightmare unfolding inside the house. I can't win this, she said quietly. Can I? You can. How? Tell me how. Because right now it looks like Damien's systematically dismantling every move I make. Criminal complaints, civil suits, restraining orders, leaked documents. By the time this is over, I won't just be broke. I'll be unemployable, untouchable. My name will be synonymous with liar and gold digger. Not if we prove he's lying. With what proof? The documents he claims I fabricated? The photographs anyone could say were taken out of context. Celeste is gone. She's not testifying. His other wives are legally bound to silence. What evidence do I have that will stand up in court against a man with unlimited resources? Lucien was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, Me. What? You have me, my testimony, my resources, my willingness to stand beside you and tell everyone that Damien Mercer is exactly what you say he is. Your testimony doesn't prove anything. It proves you're not crazy. It proves someone credible believes you. You're my ex-husband. They'll say you're biased, that you're using this as an excuse to attack Damien because of some rivalry I don't even understand. There's no rivalry. Then why does he hate you so much? Why is he so determined to tie you to this? Lucian turned away. It doesn't matter. It does to me. Serafina, tell me. If I'm going down for this, I deserve to know the whole story. Lucien was silent for so long she thought he wouldn't answer. Then he said very quietly, "'Cause I warned him." "What?" "8 years ago, right after you married him. I had someone look into his background, his business, his history. I found irregularities even then. Small things. Questionable accounting, suspicious transactions. Nothing illegal yet, but enough to suggest he would be eventually. And I confronted him. Told him if he hurt you, if he did anything to harm you, I would destroy everything he'd built." Serafina felt cold. "You threatened him. I protected you. By making me a target? By making him paranoid that I was still connected to you? By making sure he knew there would be consequences if he crossed a line. And he crossed it anyway. Yes. Because you made him think I was some kind of spy, some planted threat in his home. That's exactly what you did," Serafina said, her voice rising. "You put a target on my back 8 years ago, and I didn't even know it. Every time Damien pulled away from me, every time he became more secretive, more controlling, it was because he thought I was working with you. I was trying to protect you. You were trying to control me, just like Damien did, just in a different way. That's not fair, isn't it? You tracked me for 8 years. You had people watching me. You warned my husband that you'd destroy him if he hurt me. You never let me go, Lucien. You just convinced yourself you did. I let you leave. You let me walk away while keeping me in a cage you'd built. And now that cage is collapsing, and I'm the one getting crushed." Lucien's expression hardened. "You called me. You asked for help. Because I didn't know you'd been manipulating my marriage from the beginning. I wasn't, what would you call it? You interfered. You threatened Damien. You made him paranoid. Is it any wonder he spent 3 years isolating me? He probably thought I was reporting back to you the whole time. That's speculation. It's the only thing that makes sense. Damien's cruelty wasn't random. It was strategic. He was protecting himself from you. By erasing you. By making sure I had nothing to report. No access to his files. No knowledge of his business. No social connections that could be used against him. He didn't just erase me, Lucian. He quarantined me. Because of you." The words hung in the air like smoke. Lucian looked like she'd punched him. "You can't believe that." "I don't know what to believe anymore. All I know is that 2 years into my marriage, Damien suddenly became suspicious, started checking my phone, started questioning where I went and who I talked to. I thought he was just controlling, but maybe he was just terrified. Of me. Of what you'd do to him if he let his guard down." Lucian turned away. His shoulders were rigid. "So this is my fault. I don't know whose fault it is. Maybe it's everyone's. Maybe Damien would have been cruel anyway. Maybe you're right, and your warning had nothing to do with it. But I can't—" Her voice broke. "I can't fight a war I didn't even know existed until yesterday. So what do you want to do?" "I want to disappear. I want to run so far away from both of you that neither of you can ever find me again." "You don't mean that." "Don't I? Look at what's happened in 24 hours. I've been threatened with criminal charges, civil suits, and public humiliation. My home is legally inaccessible. My ex-husband is being used as evidence that I'm a professional victim. And now I find out that the man who claimed he was helping me has been pulling strings in my life for nearly a decade without my knowledge or consent. I never pulled strings. You threatened my husband to protect you, without asking if I wanted that protection, without telling me what you'd done. You made decisions about my life and then acted like you'd given me freedom." Lucian's hands were shaking now, actually shaking. "I loved you. Love isn't supposed to feel like surveillance. I was trying to make sure you were safe. You were trying to make sure you still had control, even after I left." The silence that followed was crushing. Finally, Lucian said, "If you want to leave, I won't stop you." "Where would I go? Damien's frozen my accounts. I can't access the penthouse. I have maybe 200 pounds in cash and nowhere to run. I'll give you money. I don't want your money. Then what do you want? Serafina looked at him. This man she'd loved and left and run back to when she had nowhere else to go. This man who'd promised he wouldn't try to make her smaller, but who'd been making decisions for her all along. I want honesty, she said. Complete honesty. No more secrets. No more manipulation. No more threats made on my behalf without my knowledge. You have it. Do I? Because 5 minutes ago I didn't even know you'd threatened Damien. What else don't I know? Lucian was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, I know where Celeste went. Serafina's heart stopped. What? I know where she went. I've known since the flight manifests were filed this morning. And you didn't tell me? I was waiting for the right moment. There's no right moment for information like that. Where is she? Dubai. Checked into the Burj Al Arab under a false name. But she won't stay hidden long. She's already been contacting journalists, shopping her story. Her story? About Damien. About being the other woman who didn't know. She's angry, humiliated, and she's got nothing to lose. Serafina felt something shift. She could testify. Against Damien? Maybe, if she's properly motivated. Meaning she needs a reason to burn bridges with a billionaire who could make her life very difficult. Right now, she's probably weighing her options. Stay silent and maybe get a settlement, or go public and risk Damien's wrath. So we give her a reason to choose going public. How? Serafina thought about it, about the young woman in the white dress who'd looked so devastated when she realized she'd been lied to, about how Damien had done to Celeste exactly what he'd done to Serafina, made her believe she was special, chosen, irreplaceable, right up until the moment he didn't need her anymore. We tell her she's not alone, Serafina said. We tell her about the other wives, the pattern. We show her that staying silent doesn't protect you. It just lets him do it again. Lucian studied her face. You want to go to Dubai. I want to talk to her, convince her to come forward. He paused. That could work. Could? It's risky. Damien will know the moment you leave the country. The restraining order technically prohibits you from contacting him or anyone connected to him. Celeste could be argued as connected. I don't care. You should. Violating a restraining order is a criminal offense. Everything I do is apparently a criminal offense according to Damien's lawyers. At least this way I'd be doing something useful. Lucian pulled out his phone, started typing rapidly. I can have a plane ready in 2 hours, private. No flight manifest. We land in Dubai, talk to Celeste, and leave before anyone knows we were there. We? You think I'm letting you do this alone? I think you've been making decisions for me without asking. So, yes, I'm going alone. Serafina, I need to do this myself. I need to know I can fight my own battles without you orchestrating everything from the shadows. I wasn't orchestrating. You knew where Celeste went. You didn't tell me. That's orchestrating. Lucian looked like he wanted to argue. Then he just nodded. Fine, but take security. No. Then at least take a phone I know can't be traced. Lucian. Please. The word came out rough. Raw. Let me do this one thing. Let me know you're safe, even if I'm not there. Serafina wanted to say no, wanted to prove she didn't need anything from him, but she was exhausted and terrified and completely out of her depth. Okay, she said quietly. Lucian made calls, arrangements. Within 90 minutes, a car arrived to take Serafina to a private airfield outside London. She packed light, changed into nondescript clothes, pulled her hair back and wore sunglasses even though it was overcast. At the door, Lucian stopped her. Be careful, he said. I will. And Serafina? Yes? I'm sorry for threatening Damien, for tracking you, for every time I convinced myself I was protecting you when really I was just afraid of losing you completely. She looked at him, at this man who'd loved her wrong and tried to fix it and failed. I know, she said. Then she left. The flight to Dubai took 7 hours. Serafina spent most of it staring out the window at clouds and ocean, trying to figure out what she'd say to Celeste. How do you convince someone to destroy their future for justice? How do you ask them to sacrifice everything they might still salvage from a relationship that was built on lies? She didn't have good answers, The plane landed at a private terminal. A driver was waiting with a car. No questions. No passport checks. Lucien's money smoothing every edge. The Burj Al Arab rose against the Dubai skyline like a sail made of gold. Serafina had the driver stop a block away. She couldn't risk being seen entering, couldn't risk security cameras or witness ES. She called the hotel from the burner phone Lucien had given her, asked to be connected to a guest, used the false name Lucien had provided. The line rang 4 times. Then Celeste's voice. "Hello? It's Serafina Vale." Silence. "Don't hang up," Serafina said quickly. "Please, I need 5 minutes." "How did you find me?" "Does it matter?" "I have nothing to say to you." "You don't have to say anything. Just listen." More silence. Then, 5 minutes. They met in a cafe 3 blocks from the hotel. Neutral ground, public enough to feel safe. Celeste looked smaller than she had at the gala. Younger. She wore no makeup, and her hair was pulled into a messy ponytail. She looked like a college student, not a billionaire's replacement wife. "I almost didn't come," Celeste said when Serafina sat down. "Thank you for coming anyway." "Why are you here?" "To tell you that you're not the first, and to ask you to make sure you're the last." Celeste's expression hardened. "I already know about you, about his pattern. I looked him up after the gala." "Then you know he won't stop unless someone stops him. And that someone should be me?" "It could be. You have information, access to his private life, things you saw or heard that could corroborate what I've been saying. And what do I get in return? My reputation destroyed, my life ruined? I'm 26 years old, I have a career, a future. Why would I throw that away? Because he used you, because he lied to you, because if you don't stop him, he'll do it again to someone else." Celeste laughed bitterly. "You think I care about the next one? I barely survived being this one." "Then do it for yourself. Take back the power he stole." "By making myself a target?" "No, thank you. I've seen what he's doing to you. The lawsuits, the criminal complaints. I'm not interested in that life." Serafina leaned forward. "What if I told you you're already a target? That Damien's lawyers are preparing to paint you as a knowing accomplice to fraud? That they're going to argue you helped him hide money in exchange for gifts and travel?" The color drained from Celeste's face. "That's not true." "Doesn't matter if it's true. Matters if they can make it sound plausible. You're lying, am I? Or am I telling you what Damien's legal team will do to protect him? You were his mistress. You benefited financially from your relationship with him. You have no NDA, no settlement, no protection. You're a loose end, and Damien doesn't leave loose ends." Celeste stood abruptly. "I need to go." "Celeste, you came here to scare me into helping you. I get it, but I'm not doing it. Find another way to destroy your ex-husband." She walked out. Serafina sat alone in the cafe, staring at the empty chair across from her. She'd failed. Come all this way, risked violating the restraining order, and failed completely. Her phone buzzed. A message from Lucien. "How did it go?" She typed back. She said no. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. "Then come home. We'll find another way." Serafina stared at the message. Home. She didn't even know where that was anymore. She paid for her untouched coffee and left the cafe. The driver was waiting. She climbed into the back seat and closed her eyes. The flight back to London felt twice as long. When she finally arrived at the manor house, it was nearly midnight. Lucien was waiting in the living room, his face drawn with exhaustion. "I'm sorry," he said immediately. "For what?" "For not being more helpful, for sending you alone, for everything." Serafina dropped her bag and collapsed onto the couch. "It's not your fault. Celeste was never going to help. She's too smart to tie herself to a sinking ship." Then we moved to Plan B. "What's Plan B?" "I don't know yet, but we'll figure it out." Serafina looked at him, at this man who kept saying "we" like they were a team, like she hadn't spent the last day questioning everything about their relationship. "I can't do this anymore," she said quietly. "Can't do what?" "This, us, the fighting, the secrets, the constant feeling that I'm 3 steps behind everyone else." "Serafina, I need space, Lucien, real space, not just physical distance, but I need to figure out who I am without being someone's wife, without being someone's anything. Okay. Okay? If that's what you need, then that's what you get. Just like that? Just like that. Serafina felt tears burn behind her eyes. She'd expected him to fight, to argue, to try to convince her to stay. But he just sat there, looking at her with an expression that was equal parts grief and acceptance. "Thank you," she whispered. "For what?" "For finally letting me go." Lucien nodded once, then he stood and walked out of the room. Serafina sat alone in the silence, wondering if she'd just made the biggest mistake of her life, or if she'd finally done something right. Her phone buzzed. She pulled it out, expecting another message from Damien's lawyers or a reporter or someone else trying to destroy what was left of her life. Instead, it was an unknown number. "This is Celeste. I changed my mind. When can we meet?" Serafina stared at the message, her heart pounding. Maybe there was still a way to win this after all. Serafina stared at the message until the words blurred. Her hands were shaking so badly she nearly dropped the phone. She read it again, making sure she hadn't hallucinated it. "This is Celeste. I changed my mind. When can we meet?" She didn't think, just typed back, "Now, where are you?" The response came within seconds. "Still in Dubai, but I'm booking a flight back tonight. Can you meet me at Heathrow tomorrow morning, Terminal 5, 8 a.m.? I'll be there. Come alone. If I see anyone else, I'm gone." "Understood." Serafina lowered the phone and stared at the dark windows of the manor house. Outside, rain had started again, hammering against the glass like it was trying to break through. She should tell Lucien, should wake him up and show him the message and let him help plan the meeting. But Celeste had said, "Come alone." And after everything that had happened in the last 48 hours, the secrets, the manipulation, the way Lucien had been pulling strings without her knowledge, Serafina needed to do this herself. She needed to prove she could fight her own battles. She grabbed her bag, still packed from Dubai, and wrote a note on the kitchen counter. "Celeste contacted me. Meeting her at Heathrow 8 a.m. Don't follow. I need to do this alone. S." Then she called a car service and waited by the front door, watching the minutes crawl by on her phone. The car arrived at 1 in the morning. She climbed in and gave the driver an address in London. Not the penthouse, obviously, but a hotel near the airport where she could get a few hours of sleep before the meeting. The drive took 90 minutes through rain and darkness. Serafina spent it staring out the window, trying to figure out what had changed Celeste's mind. Fear? Anger? Revenge? It didn't matter. All that mattered was that she was willing to talk. The hotel was generic and anonymous. Serafina checked in under a false name, using cash. The room was small and smelled like industrial cleaner. She lay on the bed fully clothed, staring at the ceiling, and didn't sleep at all. At 6 a.m., she showered and changed into fresh clothes. At 7, she was in another car heading to Heathrow. At 7:45, she was standing in Terminal 5 near the arrivals gate, drinking terrible coffee and watching every face that walked past. 8 o'clock came and went. 8:50. 8:30. Serafina's chest tightened. Celeste had changed her mind again. Or this was a setup, or Damien had somehow found out and stopped her. At 8:43, she saw her. Celeste walked through the arrivals gate wearing sunglasses and a baseball cap, pulling a small suitcase. She looked exhausted, haunted. Their eyes met across the terminal. Celeste walked over slowly, like approaching a wild animal. When she was close enough to speak without being overheard, she said, "I almost didn't come back." "But you did?" "I did." Celeste glanced around the terminal nervously. "Can we go somewhere private?" "Where?" "I don't know. Anywhere that's not here." They ended up in Serafina's hotel room. It felt too small for two women who barely knew each other, but were about to commit to destroying the same man. Celeste sat on the edge of the bed. Serafina took the chair by the window. "Why did you change your mind?" Serafina asked. "Because you were right about being a target." Celeste pulled out her phone and showed Serafina a screenshot. "Damien's lawyers sent me this 2 hours after you left Dubai. It was a draft legal document, a complaint alleging that Celeste had knowingly participated in tax fraud, money laundering, and conspiracy to defraud investors, that she'd received substantial financial benefits in exchange for her silence and cooperation." "They're claiming I helped him," Celeste said, her voice shaking. that I knew about the illegal accounts and the shell companies, that I was his accomplice. Did you know? No, I swear I didn't. I thought he was divorced. I thought we were building a life together. I thought... Her voice broke. I thought I was special. Serafina felt something twist in her chest. She recognized that particular flavor of humiliation, the specific way it felt to realize you'd been nothing but a pawn. You were never special to him, Serafina said gently. None of us were. We were just useful until we weren't. I know that now, but knowing it and accepting it are different things. Celeste wiped at her eyes. I spent the last day going through every memory, every conversation, trying to figure out when the lies started. But I think they never stopped. I think everything he ever told me was calculated. Probably. How did you survive 3 years of that? I didn't, I just existed. There's a difference. Celeste nodded slowly. So what do we do? How do we stop him? You testify. You go on record about what you saw, what you heard, what he told you. You corroborate my story so it stops looking like one unstable ex-wife and starts looking like a pattern. And then what? His lawyers destroy me? I end up in prison because I can't prove I didn't know about the fraud? We get you immunity first. I have a contact at the Financial Conduct Authority. Someone Lucien knows. They'll protect you in exchange for your testimony. Lucien, your ex-husband, the one Damien's lawyers are claiming manipulated you into this. Yes. And you trust him? Serafina thought about that, about Lucien's secrets and his control and the way he'd threatened Damien without her knowledge. I trust him to want Damien destroyed, she said finally, and right now, that's enough. Celeste was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, Okay, I'll do it, but I need something from you first. What? The truth. About why Damien's so obsessed with destroying you specifically. It's not just about protecting his reputation. There's something personal in how he's going after you, something vindictive. Serafina felt ice slide down her spine. What do you mean? I mean, I heard him on the phone 2 days ago, with his lawyers. He was screaming about how you needed to be neutralized permanently. Those were his exact words. Not discredited, not silenced. Neutralized. People say things when they're angry. Not like that. Not with that kind of rage. He wasn't just angry, Serafina. He was terrified. Of you. Of what you know or what you represent. And I need to understand why before I tie myself to this sinking ship. Serafina stood and walked to the window. London sprawled below, gray and indifferent. She'd been avoiding this question since the moment Lucien told her about threatening Damien 8 years ago. But maybe it was time to face it. Damien married me for connections, she said slowly. My family's old money, the social access I could provide. But I think he also married me because of Lucien. Your ex-husband? Yes. Lucien Drakov used to run half of London's underground economy. Money laundering, illegal gambling, extortion. He was untouchable. Until he decided to go legitimate. Sold his operations, invested in legal businesses, became respectable. And Damien knew this? Everyone knew, but what Damien didn't know was that Lucien still has connections, still has power. And when I married Damien, Lucien threatened him, told him that if anything happened to me, he'd destroy everything Damien had built. Celeste's eyes widened. So Damien spent 3 years terrified of you. Not of me, of what Lucien would do if he hurt me. But he did hurt you. He systematically erased you. Why didn't Lucien stop it? Because I left Lucien specifically to escape that kind of protection. I told him I needed to build my own life without his shadow hanging over me. So he stayed away. Until I called him. And now Damien thinks you've been working with Lucien all along, that you spent 3 years gathering evidence, waiting for the right moment to strike. Maybe. Not maybe. Definitely. That's why he's so vicious. He thinks this is a coordinated attack. You and Lucien finally making good on that 8-year-old threat. Serafina turned away from the window. Is it relevant? Does it change anything about what he did to you? No, but it explains why he's fighting so hard. He's not just protecting his reputation. He's fighting for his life. Against an enemy who doesn't play by any rules. Lucien isn't what? Dangerous? Please. I've heard the stories. Everyone has. Lucien Drakov doesn't threaten people lightly, And if Damien believes you're Lucien's weapon, then he's going to treat you like one. The words landed like a punch. Serafina's phone buzzed. She pulled it out, expecting another message from Celeste's phone. Instead, it was from Lucien. "Where are you?" She didn't respond. Another message. "Serafina, answer me." Then, "Damien knows about Celeste. He's moving against her. You need to get somewhere safe. Now." Her blood went cold. How would Damien know about Celeste? "What?" Celeste looked up. "Lucien just sent a message. Says Damien knows you're back in London." "That's impossible. I booked the flight under a fake name, used cash, told no one." "Someone told him." They stared at each other. Then Celeste's phone rang. Unknown number. She answered on speaker. "Miss Harper." A man's voice. Cold. Professional. "This is Robert Chen from Chen & Associates. We represent Damien Mercer. I'm calling to inform you that we have filed criminal charges against you for conspiracy to commit fraud, accessory to theft, and violation of financial regulations. Warrants for your arrest have been issued. I strongly suggest you retain legal counsel and surrender yourself to authorities immediately." The line went dead. Celeste looked like she'd been shot. They filed charges. They actually filed charges. It's a bluff. You don't know that. They can't prove you knew about the fraud. You didn't even know he was married. They don't need to prove it. They just need to make me look guilty enough that no one believes my testimony. Serafina's mind raced. This was escalating faster than she'd anticipated. Damien wasn't just defending himself anymore. He was actively hunting them. Her phone rang. "Lucien," she answered. "What's happening?" "Get out of that hotel. Right now. Damien's people are tracking Celeste's phone. They'll find you within the hour." "How do you know?" "Because I'm tracking them tracking her. Move. I'll send a car." "Lucien, no arguments. You wanted to do this alone. Fine. But I'm not letting you get arrested or worse because Damien's playing dirtier than you expected." The line went dead. Serafina looked at Celeste. "We need to go." "Where?" "Somewhere Damien can't find us." "Where does a place like that even exist?" "I know someone. Come on." They grabbed their bags and left the hotel through a service entrance. Outside, the morning had turned gray and cold. Rain threatened. A black car pulled up within 2 minutes. The driver didn't speak, just held the door open. They got in. The car drove for 40 minutes, weaving through London traffic, doubling back several times. Serafina watched through the rear window, looking for tails. She didn't see any, but that didn't mean they weren't there. Finally, they stopped in front of a building Serafina recognized. Lucien's original penthouse in Shoreditch, the one she'd stayed in before. "He said to bring you here," the driver said. "Top floor. Use the private elevator." They rode up in silence. The doors opened directly into the penthouse. Lucien was waiting. He looked like he hadn't slept. His hair was disheveled, his shirt untucked, but his eyes were sharp and focused. He looked at Celeste first. "Miss Harper, thank you for coming forward. I didn't have much choice." "You always have a choice. You made the right one." Then he turned to Serafina. "We need to talk. Alone. Anything you say to me, you can say in front of Celeste." "Serafina, she's risking everything. She deserves to hear this." Lucien's jaw tightened, then he nodded. "Fine. Damien's lawyers filed charges against both of you 2 hours ago. Conspiracy to commit fraud for you, Serafina. Multiple financial crimes for Celeste. The warrants are real. The Metropolitan Police are actively looking for you." "Can they arrest us without evidence?" "They have evidence. Or at least, what looks like evidence. Bank transfers from accounts Damien claims you controlled, Serafina. Documents he says you stole and altered. For Celeste, they have transactions showing payments made to her that they're characterizing as kickbacks for helping hide money." "That's insane. I never controlled any accounts. The payments to Celeste were gifts. He was her boyfriend. Doesn't matter. He's made it look legitimate enough that a judge issued warrants. And once you're arrested, the narrative shifts. You stop being the victims exposing fraud. You become criminals trying to blackmail an innocent man." Serafina felt the walls closing in. "So what do we do?" "We go to the Financial Conduct Authority first, before the police find you. We give them everything. Your documents, Celeste's testimony, the evidence I've gathered. We force them to see the pattern before Damien can spin it. And if they don't believe us, then we're fucked. Lucian said bluntly. But it's the only play we have left. Celeste spoke up, her voice shaking. I want immunity, in writing, before I say anything. I'll make it happen. How? I know people. People who owe me favors. People who want to see Damian Mercer burn as much as you do. Why do they want that? Lucien's expression darkened. Because Damian didn't just defraud his clients. He defrauded some very dangerous people. People who don't go to the police when they have a problem. They come to people like me. Serafina felt ice in her veins. What are you saying? I'm saying Damian's problem isn't just legal anymore. It's existential. The money he stole? Some of it belonged to organizations that don't accept losses. They've been waiting for an excuse to move against him. Your exposure gave them that excuse. Are you threatening him? I don't need to. He's already dead. He just doesn't know it yet. Lucien, don't look at me like that. I'm not the one who stole from Russian oligarchs and Middle Eastern investors who solve problems with bullets instead of lawyers. Damian did that himself. Celeste stood abruptly. I can't be part of this. I thought we were fighting a legal battle, not whatever this is. This is reality, Lucien said coldly. Damian Mercer played a game he couldn't win. Now the bill is coming due. I'm not watching someone die. You won't have to. You'll be in protective custody giving testimony while Damian's world collapses. What happens after isn't your concern. It is if I'm the reason it happens. You're not the reason. Damian's choices are the reason. You're just the catalyst. Celeste looked at Serafina desperately. Tell him this is wrong. Serafina wanted to say that revenge wasn't supposed to involve actual violence, that they were better than this. But she thought about 3 years of systematic erasure, about the exit strategy folder and the hidden accounts, and the way Damian had planned her destruction with surgical precision. And she realized she didn't care what happened to him. I can't, she said quietly. I can't tell you it's wrong when every part of me wants him to suffer. That's not justice. That's revenge. Maybe they're the same thing. Celeste grabbed her bag. I'm leaving. Where will you go? Lucien asked. There are warrants for your arrest. Damian's lawyers have painted you as an accomplice. And the people whose money he stole. They think you helped him. You walk out that door, you're on your own. Better than being complicit in murder. I'm not murdering anyone. I'm simply letting nature take its course. That's semantics. That's survival. Celeste looked at Serafina one last time. I thought you were different. I thought you actually cared about doing the right thing. I do care. But my definition of right has changed. Then you're no better than him. The words hit like a slap. Celeste walked to the elevator and pressed the button. If you leave now, Lucien said quietly, I can't protect you. I don't want your protection. The elevator doors opened. Celeste stepped inside. Serafina wanted to stop her, wanted to say something that would make this okay, but she couldn't find the words. The doors closed. Celeste was gone. Serafina turned to Lucian. She's right. We've become exactly what we're fighting against. No, we've become what we need to be to survive. Is there a difference? Ask me when this is over. Serafina's phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. You have until midnight to retract all allegations and issue a public apology. Otherwise, the warrants will be executed and additional charges will be filed. This is your final opportunity. DM Damian. Using a burner phone but not bothering to hide his identity. She showed the message to Lucien. He read it and smiled. Actually, smiled. He's panicking. That's panic? An ultimatum with a deadline? That's desperation dressed up as control. He knows he's losing. We have arrest warrants. How is that losing? Because warrants mean nothing if we give the authorities something bigger first. Come on, we're going to the FCA now. What about Celeste? Without her testimony, but we don't need her. We have the documents, the bank records, the pattern with his previous wives. It's enough. You said before it wasn't enough. Before we were trying to win in the court of public opinion. Now we're trying to stay out of prison. Different standards. They took a different car, a different route. Lucien made calls the entire way, speaking in clipped sentences to people whose names Serafina didn't catch. The Financial Conduct Authority building was intimidating, all glass and steel and institutional authority. Inside, they were met by a woman in her 40s wearing a severe suit and an expression that suggested she'd seen every kind of financial crime imaginable and wasn't impressed by any of it. "Mr. Drakov," she said, "and Miss Vale. I'm Director Sarah Pritchard. I understand you have information regarding Damian Mercer." "We have evidence of systematic fraud spanning multiple years," Lucien said. "Shell companies, offshore accounts, falsified investment returns, misappropriation of client funds. We're already investigating Mr. Mercer based on your earlier tip. This goes beyond what we provided before. This is evidence of a pattern, multiple victims, a deliberate strategy to defraud investors while maintaining a respectable public image." Director Pritchard led them into a conference room. For the next 2 hours, they laid out everything: the exit strategy folder, the property records, the bank transfers, the communications with shell companies. Serafina watched Director Pritchard's expression shift from skeptical to interested to alarmed. "This is extensive," Pritchard said finally, "and deeply incriminating. But I need to ask, how did you obtain these documents?" "From my own home," Serafina said, "from an unlocked drawer in a house I legally resided in." "Mr. Mercer's lawyers are claiming you broke into his private office and stole confidential files. His lawyers are lying." "Can you prove that? Can he prove I broke in? There's no forced entry, no security footage, no witnesses. He's claiming theft because the truth makes him look guilty." Pritchard tapped her pen against the table. "Even if everything you're saying is true, you understand there's a complication." "What complication?" "There are warrants for your arrest, both of you. I can't grant you immunity or protection until those warrants are addressed." "The warrants are retaliation," Lucien said. "Damian filed them to intimidate witnesses." "Perhaps, but they exist, and I can't ignore them." "What if we surrender?" Serafina heard herself say. "What if we turn ourselves in, cooperate fully, and let you verify everything we've provided?" "Serafina," Lucien started. "It's the only way. We can't hide forever, and if we run, we look guilty." Pritchard studied her. "If you surrender voluntarily, I can arrange for you to be held here rather than in a police station. You'll be in custody, but you'll have access to legal counsel and the opportunity to cooperate with our investigation. And if our evidence checks out, then the charges against you will likely be dropped and we'll move forward with charges against Mr. Mercer." "Likely isn't good enough," Lucien said. "It's all I can offer. The decision to prosecute isn't mine alone." Serafina looked at Lucien. "I'm doing it." "You'll be in custody, potentially for days. Better than running." "Serafina, I'm tired of running. I'm tired of hiding. I'm tired of letting Damian control the narrative. If surrendering means the truth finally comes out, then that's what I'm doing." Lucien looked like he wanted to argue. Then he just closed his eyes and nodded. "Fine. I'm surrendering too. You don't have to." "Yes, I do. You're not doing this alone." Director Pritchard made a phone call. 20 minutes later, 2 officers arrived to take them into custody. They were fingerprinted, photographed, and processed like actual criminals. Serafina was placed in a holding room that was technically comfortable but felt like a cage. White walls, fluorescent lights, a table and 2 chairs. She sat down and waited. Hours passed. No one came. No updates. No information. Finally, around 8 p.m., the door opened. But it wasn't Director Pritchard. It was Damian. Serafina stood so fast her chair fell over. "What are you doing here?" "Visiting my wife." His smile was all teeth. Or ex-wife, I suppose, depending on how you look at it. "You can't be here. There's a restraining order." "Which you violated by contacting Celeste, so technically we're both in violation. I figured that made us even." "Get out." "Not yet. We need to talk." "I have nothing to say to you." "Then listen." Damian sat down like he owned the place, like he'd bought the building and everyone in it. "Here's what's going to happen. You're going to drop all allegations against me. You're going to issue a public statement saying you fabricated everything because you were emotionally unstable. You're going to divorce me quietly and accept a settlement of £50,000. And then you're going to disappear. And if I don't, then I'll make sure you spend the next 5 years in prison. I have witnesses who'll testify you've been stalking me. I have financial experts who'll say you doctored the documents. I have psychiatrists who'll diagnose you with delusional disorder. By the time I'm done, no one will believe a word you say. Serafina felt rage rise in her chest like lava. You're pathological. I'm successful. There's a difference. You're a fraud, a liar, a sociopath who destroys everyone who gets close to you. And yet here I am, free, comfortable, while you're in custody, waiting to be charged with crimes that will ruin what's left of your life. The FCA has the evidence. They know what you did. They have documents they can't verify and testimony from a convicted extortionist. He meant Lucien. It won't hold up. You're terrified. I can see it. You're here because you know you're losing. Damien's smile faltered, just for a second. Then it was back, wider than before. I'm here because I wanted to see you one last time. The woman who thought she could destroy me. The woman who was so arrogant she believed one night at a gala could bring down an empire. It did bring you down. You just haven't accepted it yet. I'll tell you what brought me down. Damien leaned forward. Nothing. Because I'm still here, still operating, still thriving. While you rot in a cell waiting for lawyers, you can't afford to, maybe, possibly, save you from charges I personally made sure would stick. Lucien will do nothing. He's in custody too. His assets are frozen pending investigation. His lawyers are busy trying to keep him out of prison for violating about 17 different financial regulations. He can't save you, Serafina. No one can. Serafina felt something crack inside her chest. You've thought of everything? I always do. That's why I win. You call this winning? I call this surviving, which is more than you'll be doing after sentencing. He stood and walked to the door, knocked once. It opened immediately. Before he left, he turned back. You should have stayed invisible, Serafina. At least then you were safe. The door closed. Serafina sat in the empty room, staring at the space where Damien had been. He was right, about all of it. She was in custody, possibly facing years in prison, with no clear way out and no one left to help her. She'd walked into that gala thinking one night of truth would be enough. She'd been wrong. The door opened again. This time it was Director Pritchard. She didn't look happy. We verified your documents, she said. They're legitimate. The bank statements match. The property records check out. The shell companies exist exactly as you described. Relief flooded through Serafina. So you'll drop the charges? I can recommend they be dropped, but there's a problem. What problem? Damien Mercer has fled the country. Private jet left Biggin Hill Airport 3 hours ago. Destination unknown. Current location unknown. He's gone. Serafina felt the room tilt. What? He's vanished, along with approximately £15 million transferred from various accounts this morning. He must have known we were closing in. But you have evidence. You can still charge him, extradite him. We can try. But without knowing where he is, that becomes exponentially more difficult. And if he's smart, which he clearly is, he's already somewhere without an extradition treaty. So he wins. After everything, he just wins. Not necessarily. We're freezing his remaining assets, seizing property, building a case, but it will take time, possibly years. And in the meantime, the charges against you are being dropped. You're free to go. Free. The word should have felt like relief. Instead, it felt like defeat. Serafina stood on shaking legs. Where's Lucien? Being processed for release as well. He'll meet you downstairs. She walked out of the building an hour later into cold night air. London was lit up around her, indifferent to her personal apocalypse. Lucien was waiting by a car. He looked exhausted, hollowed out. He ran, Serafina said. I know. After everything we did, after everything we risked, he just ran. That's what cowards do. We didn't win. We survived. Right now, that's winning. Serafina felt something inside her break. She'd been holding it together for days, through the gala, through the confrontations, through the arrests. But standing on the street outside the FCA building, realizing that Damien had escaped consequences while she'd lost everything, it all came crashing down. She started crying. Actually crying right there on the street. Lucien pulled her against his chest. She felt his hand in her hair, heard him murmuring something she couldn't make out over her own sobs. I wanted him to pay, she gasped. I wanted him to suffer like he made me suffer. He will, Eventually. Men like Damien always do. That's not good enough. I know. They stood there while London moved around them, while traffic passed and people walked by, and life continued like nothing had happened. Finally, Serafina pulled back. What now? Now we regroup. Figure out next steps. The FCA will continue their investigation. Interpol will be involved. Damien can run, but he can't hide forever. And if he does? Then we find him ourselves. Serafina looked at him. You can't be serious. I'm completely serious. You wanted justice. I'm going to make sure you get it. Lucian? He doesn't get to do this. He doesn't get to destroy your life and then disappear into the sunset. I won't allow it. It's not your decision. Yes, it is. The moment you called me, it became my decision. And I'm deciding that Damien Mercer doesn't get a happy ending. Before Serafina could respond, her phone buzzed. A message from Celeste. I'm at the FCA. I'm ready to testify, but I need to talk to you first, please. Serafina showed the message to Lucian. She came back, he said. Why? Maybe she realized running doesn't work. Maybe she decided doing the right thing matters more than being safe. Does it matter? It might. They went back inside, found Celeste waiting in the same conference room they'd been in earlier. She looked different, harder, like she'd aged 5 years in 5 hours. I'm sorry, Celeste said immediately, for leaving, for saying you were no better than him. I was scared. You had every right to be. Maybe. But fear isn't an excuse. I know what Damien is. I know what he's done. And I know that if I don't speak up, he'll do it again to someone else. He's gone, Serafina said. Fled the country. We don't know where. Celeste's expression shifted. Something dark moved behind her eyes. I know where. What? I know where he went. He told me once about a property he'd bought. A backup plan, he called it, in case everything fell apart. A villa in Montenegro. No extradition treaty. Isolated. Perfect for disappearing. Lucien leaned forward. You're certain? Positive. He showed me pictures, said it was our future retirement home. I thought he was being romantic. Now I realize he was planning his escape route. Do you have an address? Better. I have access to the property management account. He gave me the login information months ago so I could arrange maintenance. I never canceled my access. Can you get us in? Lucian asked. Get you in? You mean, tell us where he is so we can inform the proper authorities. But the way Lucian said it, they all knew he meant something else entirely. Celeste looked at Serafina. What do you want to do? Serafina thought about it. About Damien escaping to a villa in Montenegro while she tried to rebuild a life he'd systematically destroyed. About justice deferred indefinitely while he lived comfortably on stolen money. About how survival wasn't the same thing as winning. I want to see him face consequences, she said. Real consequences. Not years from now after a lengthy investigation. Now. Even if those consequences aren't legal? Celeste asked carefully. What consequences are you suggesting? I'm suggesting that maybe the FCA isn't the only organization interested in Damien's location. Maybe there are other people. People who lost money because of him. People who don't believe in waiting for justice. She was talking about the dangerous investors Lucian had mentioned. The ones who solved problems with bullets. No, Serafina said immediately. I want him to suffer, but I don't want him dead. Then what do you want? Lucian asked. Serafina met his eyes. I want to look him in the face one more time. I want him to know he didn't win. I want him to understand that running doesn't mean escaping. So we go to Montenegro. That's insane. Is it? He's there. We know where. We can confront him, get additional evidence, and bring it back to the authorities. Or we can tell the authorities where he is and let them handle it. They'll take months to build a case for extradition. He'll disappear again. You know he will. Serafina knew he was right. Damien was too smart, too well-connected, too good at vanishing. Okay, she said. We go to Montenegro. When? Tonight. Lucian smiled. I'll make arrangements. Within 4 hours, they were on another private plane, this one heading east into darkness and whatever consequences waited on the other side. Serafina stared out the window at clouds lit by moonlight and tried not to think about what she was about to do. Tried not to think about how far she'd fallen from the woman who'd wanted simple justice. Tried not to think about how much she'd become exactly what Celeste had accused her of being, someone no better than Damien himself. The plane descended through cloud cover. Montenegro appeared below, dark mountains and darker water. Serafina took a breath. This was it. The final confrontation. The moment where everything either ended or began again. She just had to survive it. The villa sat on a cliff overlooking the Adriatic Sea, exactly as remote and beautiful as Celeste had described. White stone, terracotta roof, gardens that cascaded down toward the water in careful terraces. It looked like a postcard, like paradise purchased with stolen money. The car stopped half a mile away, hidden behind a curve in the coastal road. Dawn was still an hour off. The world existed in that suspended state between night and morning, where everything felt possible and nothing felt real. Serafina stepped out into air that smelled like salt and pine. Her legs were shaky from the flight, from exhaustion, from the mounting realization that she was about to do something from which there was no return. Lucien emerged from the other side of the car, followed by Celeste. They'd barely spoken during the flight. What was there to say? They all knew what came next. The property management company said there's a security system, Celeste said quietly, pulling up information on her phone. But I have the codes. Main gate, front door, interior rooms. He's alone? Lucien asked. As far as I know, he wouldn't bring staff, too many witnesses. So we walk in, confront him, get whatever additional evidence we can, and leave. Serafina said it like a plan, like something rational and achievable. They all knew it was neither. Lucien had brought a bag from the car. He opened it and pulled out something dark and metallic, a gun. No, Serafina said immediately. Absolutely not. It's insurance. It's escalation. We're not going in there armed. We're confronting a man who's already proven he'll destroy anyone who threatens him. We're going armed or we're not going at all. Lucien, I'm not negotiating on this. You want to walk into that villa defenseless? Fine, I'm not letting you. Serafina wanted to argue, wanted to say that bringing a weapon changed the nature of what they were doing, transformed it from confrontation to something darker. But she was too tired to fight. And maybe, in some corner of herself she didn't want to examine, she was relieved someone else was willing to make the hard choices. Stay behind me, Lucien said. Both of you. If something goes wrong, if Damien has his own security, or if this goes sideways in any way, you run. Back to the car. Back to the airport. You don't wait for me. I'm not leaving you, Serafina said. Yes, you are. Because if this ends badly, someone needs to survive to tell the story. Someone needs to make sure what Damien did doesn't get buried. He was right. She hated that he was right. They walked up the coastal road in silence. The villa grew larger as they approached, its white walls luminous in the pre-dawn darkness. No lights visible, no movement. The main gate opened with Celeste's code. The sound of the lock disengaging felt too loud in the stillness. They crossed the grounds toward the front entrance. Gardens that probably looked stunning in daylight were skeletal shadows now. The smell of jasmine and something else, something medicinal and wrong, hung in the air. The front door opened just as easily. Inside was darkness and the faint hum of expensive electronics keeping the villa comfortable for a single occupant who'd fled across continents to avoid consequences. Lucien moved first, the gun held low but ready. Serafina followed, her heart hammering so hard she could feel it in her throat. Celeste came last, one hand on Serafina's shoulder like she was afraid of getting separated in the dark. The villa's interior was exactly what Serafina expected. Minimalist luxury. Designer furniture that cost more than most people earned in a year. Art on the walls, original pieces probably, purchased as investment rather than for any aesthetic reason. It looked like Damien, all surface, no soul. They found him in what must have been the master bedroom, not asleep, not even trying to sleep. He sat in a leather chair facing floor-to-ceiling windows that overlooked the sea, a glass of something amber in his hand, watching darkness slowly give way to gray light. He didn't turn when they entered, didn't react at all. I wondered how long it would take you, he said quietly. Serafina's breath caught. You knew we were coming. Of course I knew. You're predictable, Serafina. You always have been. I erased you once. You came back louder. I filed charges. You gathered evidence. I fled the country. And here you are, following me like you're the protagonist in some revenge fantasy. Turn around and look at me. Why? So you can feel powerful? So you can deliver some speech about justice and consequences? Save it. I've heard it all before. Lucien raised the gun, aiming it at the back of Damien's head. Turn around. This time Damien did. Slowly. His face in the dim light looked older than Serafina remembered, haggard. His perfect hair was unwashed. His expensive clothes were rumpled. He looked like what he actually was, a man at the end of his rope, pretending he still held the other end. His eyes found the gun first, then Lucien's face, then finally settled on Serafina. Are you here to kill me? He asked, almost curious, like it was an academic question. No, Serafina said. Yes, Lucien said at the same time. Damien laughed. It sounded hollow. You can't even agree on that? This is what passes for a united front? We're here for evidence, Serafina said. Financial records, communications, anything that proves what you did. Then we're leaving and you're going to answer for everything. I'm not going anywhere. This villa is in a country without an extradition treaty. I have enough money to live comfortably for decades. I'll die of old age before any charges catch up to me. Is that really what you want? Celeste spoke for the first time since entering the villa. To spend the rest of your life hiding? Never able to return to London? Never able to use your real name, watching over your shoulder constantly? Damien's expression shifted when he saw her. Something cracked in his composure. Celeste, you came with them. Of course I did. You were going to let me take the fall for your crimes. I was protecting you. The charges against you would have been dropped eventually. I just needed time to get clear. You were using me as a distraction, just like you used Serafina, just like you used the women before her. We were never people to you. We were just pieces in whatever game you were playing. That's not... Damien stopped, set down his glass. It wasn't supposed to be like this. What was it supposed to be like? Serafina asked. Simple. Clean. I would have given you a comfortable settlement, given Celeste the apartment and enough money to start over. Everyone would have walked away satisfied. Everyone except the investors you defrauded, the people whose lives you destroyed, the women you systematically erased. Those investors knew the risks. High returns come with high risk. They were adults. They trusted you. Then they were fools. Damien stood. Lucien's gun tracked his movement. You want to know the truth? The real truth? I don't feel bad about any of it. The money I took was just sitting in accounts making other people rich. I redistributed it, used it to build something, to become someone. You became a thief, Serafina said. I became successful. There's no difference in this world. Everyone at the top got there by taking from someone else. I just did it more efficiently. And the women? Was erasing us just efficiency too? Damien looked at her properly for the first time. Really looked. You were supposed to stay erased. You were supposed to accept the settlement and disappear quietly like the others. But you couldn't do that. You had to come back, had to make noise, had to drag Lucien Drakov into it and turn this into a war I never wanted to fight. You started this war the moment you married me. I married you because you had connections I needed, because your family name opened doors, because you were beautiful and cultured and exactly what my image required. I gave you 3 years of luxury, 3 years of a life most people would kill for. You gave me 3 years of slow suffocation while you planned my destruction. I gave you safety, comfort, a role to play. If you just accepted that, then I would have disappeared completely. I would have become nothing, a ghost in my own life. You say that like it's a bad thing. Damien's voice took on an edge. Being nothing means being safe. Being invisible means being untouchable. I did you a favor by erasing you, Serafina. I protected you from the consequences of being someone. The logic was so twisted, so fundamentally broken, that Serafina couldn't find words. Lucien found them for her. You're delusional. I'm realistic. Look at her. Look at what fighting back has cost her. She's wanted by police. Her reputation is destroyed. Her family has disowned her. She has nothing left except this fantasy that exposing me will somehow make it all worth it. I have something you'll never have, Serafina said quietly. I have my name back, my identity, my existence. You tried to take those things and failed. That's worth everything. Damien stared at her. For just a moment, Something flickered across his face. Something that might have been recognition or regret or understanding. Then it was gone, buried under the same cold calculation that had defined him all along. "You're not taking anything back to London," he said. "You're not leaving this villa with evidence or testimony or anything that could hurt me. You can't stop us. Can't I?" Damien reached into his jacket. Lucien's gun came up. "Don't. Relax. I'm not armed. I'm getting my phone." He pulled it out slowly, showed them the screen. It displayed a video feed, the villa's security cameras, multiple angles, all of them recording. "I've been documenting everything since you arrived," Damien said. 3 people breaking into my home. One of them armed with a gun, threatening me, attempting to coerce false confessions. By the time this footage reaches the right people, you'll be international criminals, fugitives. Forget clearing your names. You'll spend the rest of your lives running. Serafina felt ice slide down her spine. "You're bluffing." "Am I?" "Test me. Try to take something. Try to force me to say something incriminating. Watch what happens." "We have the access codes," Celeste said. "We didn't break in." "Codes I revoked 2 days ago. The system logged you as unauthorized entry. You're trespassers at best, home invaders at worst." Lucien's finger moved toward the trigger. "Then maybe I should just shoot you and destroy the footage." The footage uploads to cloud storage in real time. Encrypted. Multiple backups. You destroy the cameras, you destroy nothing, and shooting me just makes you a murderer on video. They'd walked into a trap. A carefully constructed trap Damien had been building since the moment he'd fled London. Maybe longer. "So what do you want?" Serafina asked. "Why let us get this far if you were just going to threaten us with footage?" "Because I wanted you to understand how completely you've lost. I wanted you to see that coming here changed nothing. That all your fighting and struggling and righteous fury accomplished exactly nothing except making your situation worse." "You're wrong." "Am I?" "Look around. Look at where you are. In a foreign country, breaking into a private residence, threatening the owner. You're criminals now, actually literally criminals. And I'm the victim. The man who fled from false accusations only to be hunted down by his unstable ex-wife and her violent ex-husband. No one will believe that. Everyone will believe it because it's on video. Because I have lawyers who will make sure it's the only story anyone hears because the gunshot was so loud in the enclosed space that Serafina's ears rang. Damien stumbled backward. His phone clattered to the floor. He looked down at his chest, at the spreading red stain on his white shirt, with an expression of complete surprise. "You shot me," he said, like he couldn't quite believe it. Lucien lowered the gun. His hand was steady. His face was completely calm. "Yes. You actually shot me. You didn't leave me much choice." Damien collapsed into the chair. Blood was spreading fast. Too fast. "The footage will show I shot a man who was threatening 3 people with blackmail and false imprisonment. Self-defense, depending on how good my lawyers are. I didn't have a weapon. You had control. Same thing." Serafina couldn't move. Couldn't think. She stared at Damien bleeding in the chair and felt her reality fracture. This wasn't supposed to happen. They were supposed to get evidence, supposed to leave, supposed to let justice work even if it took time. They weren't supposed to become murderers. "Lucien," she whispered, "what did you do?" "What needed to be done. We weren't supposed to, this wasn't, he was never going to let us leave. He was going to use that footage to destroy us, to make us fugitives, to win even from exile. I ended it. You killed him." "Not yet, but soon." Damien was struggling to breathe now. Each breath came with a wet, horrible sound. Blood bubbled at his lips. "Help me." "No," Lucien said simply. "Please, I'll delete the footage. I'll confess. I'll give you everything. Just call an ambulance." "There's no ambulance coming. There's no hospital close enough. There's just you and the choices you made that led to this moment." Serafina found herself moving forward. Kneeling beside the chair, she didn't know why. Some instinct that even now, even after everything, couldn't watch someone die without trying to help. "Don't," Lucien said. "He doesn't deserve your compassion." "Maybe not, but I deserve to still have it." She pressed her hands against the wound. Blood immediately soaked through her fingers. So much blood. Too much. Damien's eyes found hers. Serafina, don't talk. Save your strength. There's nothing to save it for. He coughed. More blood. I'm dying. You're not. I am. And you know what the worst part is? I still don't regret it. Any of it. I'd do it all again. Even knowing it ends like this? Even knowing. Because for 3 years I was powerful. I was someone. I mattered. His breathing was getting shallower. You think you won. You think this is justice. But it's just violence. We're the same, you and me. We both destroyed lives to get what we wanted. We're nothing alike. Keep telling yourself that. Damien's eyes started to lose focus. But when you're alone in the dark remembering this moment, remember that I'm right. You became exactly what you were fighting. Then his breathing stopped. Serafina felt for a pulse. Nothing. Damien Mercer was dead. She pulled her blood-soaked hands back and stood on shaking legs. The room spun. She thought she might throw up. We need to go, Lucien said. Now. We just killed him. I killed him. You tried to save him. Important distinction. The footage? I'm taking the phone. We'll deal with the footage later. How? You said it uploads to the cloud. And I have people who can access cloud storage. People who owe me favors. We'll scrub it. Make it disappear. But we need to leave before anyone finds the body. Celeste spoke from the doorway. She'd been silent since the gunshot. Silent since Damien collapsed. I can't be part of this. Too late, Lucien said. You're already part of it. I didn't ask for this. I didn't want this. Neither did Serafina. But this is where we are. This is what survival looks like. Survival, we just committed murder. We just ended a threat. There's a difference. Not to the law. The law hasn't protected any of us so far. Why start relying on it now? Serafina looked at Damien's body slumped in the chair. His eyes were still open, still staring at nothing with that expression of surprise frozen on his face. She'd wanted him to face consequences. She'd wanted justice. She'd wanted him to suffer the way he'd made her suffer. But she hadn't wanted this. She hadn't wanted to watch the light go out of someone's eyes while her hands were covered in their blood. We need to clean up, Lucien said, already moving through the villa, wiping down surfaces they'd touched. Serafina, wash your hands. Celeste, check for anything we might have left behind. Move. They moved. On autopilot. Following Lucien's instructions because thinking about what they'd just done was impossible. Serafina washed her hands in a bathroom sink. The water ran red, then pink, then clear. But she could still feel the blood. Could still feel Damien's pulse getting weaker under her fingers. Could still hear his last words echoing in her head. You became exactly what you were fighting. In the mirror, her reflection looked like a stranger, wild-eyed, pale, covered in someone else's blood. She didn't recognize the woman staring back. Didn't want to recognize her. Serafina. Lucien appeared in the doorway. Time to go. They left through the same entrance they'd used to break in. The sun was rising now, painting the Adriatic in shades of gold and rose. It looked beautiful, peaceful, nothing like the horror they were leaving behind. The car was where they'd left it. They climbed in. The driver, one of Lucien's people, someone who asked no questions and saw nothing, pulled away smoothly. None of them spoke during the drive to the airport. None of them looked at each other. The private plane was waiting. They boarded. The engine started. The plane lifted into a sky that was clear and blue and completely indifferent to what had happened in the white villa on the cliff. Somewhere over the Alps, Celeste finally spoke. What happens now? Now we go home, Lucien said. We wait to see if the body is discovered. We see if the footage surfaces. We prepare for consequences while hoping none come. And if they do come, then we deal with them. That's not a plan. It's all the plan we have. Celeste closed her eyes. I want to go home, to America, away from all of this. Then go. I'll arrange transport, new identity if you need it, money to start over, whatever you need to disappear. Like Damien tried to disappear? No. Damien ran because he was guilty. You'll disappear because you were a victim who got caught in crossfire. I'm not a victim anymore. I'm an accessory to murder. You're a survivor. Don't confuse the two. The plane landed in London 8 hours after leaving Montenegro, 8 hours that felt like 8 years. Lucien had made calls during the flight, arrangements, preparations, cover stories in case the worst happened. At the airport, Celeste hugged Serafina briefly. I hope you find whatever peace you're looking for. You too. I don't think there is peace after something like this. I think there's just learning to live with what we did. Then she was gone. Into a car that would take her to another airport, another flight, another life somewhere far from London and Montenegro and the ghost of Damien Mercer. Lucien drove Serafina back to the manor house. The same manor house where this had all started, where she'd first decided to fight back, where she'd first let Lucien help her, where she'd made the choices that led to a man dying while she tried to stop his bleeding with blood-soaked hands. Inside, the fire was still burning low in the hearth. Someone had kept it fed while they were gone. Serafina collapsed onto the couch. She hadn't slept in over 30 hours, hadn't eaten, hadn't done anything but live through the worst night of her life. Lucien sat beside her, not touching, just present. Say something, she said finally. Like what? Like this was necessary, like we had no choice, like Damien deserved what happened, something that makes this feel less like murder. I can't, because you're right, it was murder, not self-defense, not justice, murder. Then why did you do it? Because he was going to destroy you, completely, irrevocably, and I couldn't let that happen. So you became a murderer, for me. I was already a murderer, Serafina, years before I met you. Damien wasn't my first, he won't be my last. The only difference is this time you had to watch. The word should have horrified her, should have made her recoil. Instead, she just felt tired. I thought confronting him would fix something, she said. I thought if he just acknowledged what he'd done, if he just admitted it, I'd feel vindicated, healed, something. And instead? Instead, I watched him die believing he was right, that we're the same, that violence is the only language anyone really speaks. We're not the same, aren't we? He destroyed people to get what he wanted. We destroyed him. Where's the difference? The difference is intent. Damien hurt people because it was convenient, because they were obstacles. We stopped him because he was dangerous. That's just semantics. Maybe. But semantics matter. They're what separate murder from execution, destruction from protection. Serafina closed her eyes. I'm so tired. Then sleep. I'll keep watch. For what? For whatever comes next. She wanted to argue, wanted to say that keeping watch was pointless when the threat was already dead and buried in a villa in Montenegro. But she didn't have the energy. She let sleep pull her under. Days passed. Then weeks. The story broke exactly as Lucien predicted. Damien Mercer found dead in his Montenegro villa. Single gunshot wound. No suspects, no witnesses. Local police investigating, but no leads. The Financial Conduct Authority released a statement about their ongoing investigation into Mercer Industries. Evidence of fraud, misappropriation of funds, multiple victims coming forward. Damien's reputation was destroyed posthumously. The man himself was gone, but his crimes lived on in headlines and court filings and investor lawsuits. The footage never surfaced. Lucien's people had done their work. Whatever Damien had recorded was erased from existence like it had never been. Like so many things in Damien's life, artificial, controlled, designed to create a specific narrative that collapsed under scrutiny. Serafina spent those weeks in a kind of limbo, not moving forward, not moving back, just existing in the space between who she'd been and who she'd become. She stayed at the manor house. Lucien gave her space. He was there when she needed him and absent when she didn't. He asked for nothing, expected nothing. It should have been comforting. Instead, it just highlighted how broken everything was. One morning, 6 weeks after Montenegro, Serafina woke to find an envelope on the kitchen counter, her name written in Lucien's precise handwriting. Inside was a key and a note. The townhouse is yours, paid in full, no mortgage, no strings. Your name is on the deed. It's not the penthouse you shared with Damien. It's not this manor house you're hiding in. It's yours. Build whatever life you want in it. L. She found him in the study, reading something on his tablet. He looked up when she entered. You bought me a house, she said. I gave you a house. There's a difference. Why? Because you need a place to rebuild. And this manor house isn't it. This is where you survived. You need somewhere to actually live. I can't accept this. Yes, you can. You just don't want to because accepting it means acknowledging that what happened in Montenegro was real. That Damien is dead. That your old life is gone. That you need to build a new one. I killed someone. No, I killed someone. You tried to save him. Stop conflating the two. I was there. I'm complicit. You're a survivor who got dragged into violence she didn't want. There's a difference. You keep saying that, like repeating it makes it true. It is true, whether you believe it or not. Serafina sat down across from him. The key felt heavy in her hand. I don't know how to move forward from this. Neither do I, but we figure it out day by day, choice by choice. Together? Lucien was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, if you want, but I won't ask that of you. I won't ask you to tie yourself to someone who killed for you. That's not love. That's trauma bonding. What is it if I choose to stay anyway? I don't know, but it's your choice, not mine, not Damien's, yours. And if I choose to leave? Then I let you go. Actually let you go this time. No tracking, no protection, no interference. You get to disappear completely if that's what you need. It was the first time in 8 years that Lucien had actually meant those words. Serafina could hear it in his voice, see it in his eyes. He would let her go. The realization was both terrifying and liberating. I need time, she said. I need to figure out who I am without being someone's wife, without being someone's target, without being someone's anything. Take it. I need to know that you won't be waiting, that you won't put your life on hold hoping I come back. I won't. Promise me. I promise. Serafina stood, held the key, looked at this man who'd loved her and lost her and killed for her and was now willing to let her go completely. Thank you, she said. For what? For finally meaning it when you say I'm free. She left that afternoon, took only what she could carry. The key to the townhouse, some clothes, her phone with a new number Lucien's people had arranged. The townhouse was in Chelsea. 3 stories. Victorian architecture, windows that let in light without making her feel exposed. It was beautiful. It was empty. It was hers. Serafina spent the first week just existing in the space, learning its sounds, its rhythms, the way morning light came through the bedroom window, the way the floors creaked in the hallway. She didn't fill it with furniture immediately, didn't rush to make it look lived in or complete. She just existed in it, proved to herself that she could occupy a space without disappearing. The divorce papers arrived in week 2. Not from Damien, he was dead, but from his estate. The lawyers had finally processed everything. She was officially no longer Serafina Mercer. She was just Serafina Vale. She'd taken back her maiden name, the name she'd been born with, the name that belonged to her and no one else. It felt like reclaiming something she'd lost without realizing it was gone. She started writing. Not a book, not a memoir, just thoughts, observations. The process of surviving something that should have destroyed her. She wrote about Damien, about the specific way he'd erased her, the surgical precision of it. She wrote about Lucien, about love that felt like suffocation even when it was trying to protect. She wrote about herself, about the woman who'd been so afraid of being consumed that she'd accepted being erased instead, about the difference between those two things, about how she'd had to lose everything, her marriage, her home, her safety, her innocence, to finally understand that existence wasn't the same as living. 3 months after moving into the townhouse, she got a job. Nothing glamorous, nothing that relied on her family connections or her previous social status. Just work at an art gallery, cataloging pieces, helping with auctions. It paid barely enough to live on. The townhouse was paid for, so she didn't need much. Just enough to eat, to buy books, to prove she could support herself without anyone's money or influence or protection. She made friends. Slowly, carefully. People who knew nothing about Damien Mercer or Lucien Dreykov or the woman who'd once been invisible. They knew her as Serafina. Just Serafina. The woman who worked at the gallery and liked poetry and sometimes got a distant look in her eyes like she was remembering something she couldn't quite articulate. They didn't ask questions. She didn't offer answers. 6 months after Montenegro, she saw Lucien again. Not by accident, not by design, just two people who happened to be at the same exhibition opening. He stood across the gallery talking to someone she didn't recognize. He looked different, older maybe, or just tired in a way that went deeper than lack of sleep. Their eyes met across the room. He nodded once, a simple acknowledgement. She nodded back. Then he left. That night, Serafina stood in her townhouse looking out at London and realized something profound. She wasn't afraid anymore, not of Damien's ghost, not of Lucian's shadow, not of disappearing again. She'd survived the worst thing she could imagine, watching someone die while trying to save them, being complicit in violence she'd never wanted, becoming something she'd sworn she'd never be. And she'd come out the other side still herself, damaged, changed, carrying scars that would never fully heal. But herself. A year after that night,